Hi, this is Joyce Meadows, and you're listening to Monster Kid Radio.
Welcome to episode 377 of Monster Kid Radio, the podcast devoted to the classic and sometimes not so classic genre cinema of yesteryear. I'm your writer, host, producer, Derek M. Cook. I want to welcome you to part 2 of our Monster Bash coverage. Whether you were at Monster Bash or you weren't at Monster Bash, I'm hoping I can bring to you a taste of Monster Bash that you can't get anywhere else, and that's because I have so many interviews in this episode. Last week you thought we had a bunch. This week we have even more. I have so much here lined up. Now, I'm just gonna let you know who the people are real quick. Just a roll call. You ready? All right, hang on. We got Steve Turek, Christopher Page, Micah Harris, Nic Brown, Fred Lane, Gregory William Mank, Joseph Kolakowski, Millie Kolakowski and their family, Mark Matzke, Janina Faye, Don Smeraldi, Leonard Getz, Bob Gilbert, Melanie Gilbert, Rod Barnett, Joyce Meadows, Joshua Kennedy, Dan Day Jr., Tim Durbin, Scott Morris, Tracy Morris, and of course, Victoria Price. And you may hear some other voices in the background as we're doing these recordings. In fact, I'm going to kind of break it up a little bit. The final segment with Josh, that's actually going to be at the very, very end of the show, just because it kind of just spiraled, you know. I just want to let that go. And people like Dominique and Scott and such, they just kind of turned up in the recording. It wasn't a sit-down interview with them. They just can be heard in the background. I think I got everybody, but check out the show notes at monsterkidradio.net for a list of everybody, as well as their website, so you can kind of keep up with them and know what they're up to. This is a long episode, so I want to keep this short. However, I do want to discuss one thing regarding me, the future of Monster Kid Radio, and the future of, well, maybe even you. Here's the deal. I've mentioned this to a couple of close friends, and I wanted to go ahead and talk about it here. I haven't mentioned it on Facebook yet, but a few days ago, I was, to use the words of my former employer, yes, former, I have been separated from the company, which means I am currently unemployed. What does that mean for you, me, for Monster Kid Radio? Well, Monster Kid Radio is not changing. That's going to continue to be the free show that we do every week here. I love doing it. I can't stop doing this podcast. However, I need to find some work. I need to bring in some cash. So a lot of this is probably going to be done online. I'm actually hoping to find some audio editing jobs, audio production, that sort of thing, helping people edit their podcast. I am signed up to do sound editing and sound work for Joshua Kennedy's upcoming movie, House of the Gorgon. I'm in talks to do some audio editing for a company that I really respect. Can't really mention who they are because, well, the deal's not done yet, but I'm in talks with them. If you know of anybody looking for somebody who's got 10 plus years of podcasting experience editing audio, well, point up my direction, would you? Also, I've got plans to revamp how Monster Kid Radio's Patreon campaign is set up. The Patreon page needs to be redone, so look forward to later this month, the Patreon for Monster Kid Radio 3.0 coming your way. Also, I've set up something called Ko-fi. Ko-fi is simply ko-fi and then .com/Monster Kid Radio. It is a free website that is set up to allow you to basically buy me a cup of coffee. It's a donation of $3. That's it. Pretty easy, pretty simple, and it doesn't cost anything for you or me. So if you're interested in just buying me a cup of coffee, well, I love coffee. Just saying. I'll make sure there's a link to all of this in the show notes, of course. I will come back at the very end of the show, so you'll hear from me again here in a little bit. Well, actually, you'll hear from me coming up right about now because, well, I'm the one doing the interviewing. Here we go. He's been helping me out so far all weekend, and I hope it continues because he's been really invaluable. Steve Turek, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm doing great. It's just been fun here. And that kind of stuff, just really enjoying it.
Second bash.
Yes, it is. Last year was my first one. This is my second one, so I'm still one behind you.
What's been the best thing so far?
Oh, well,
You don't have to say me.
Well, wasn't going to. I think the best part of this bash is that last year I had Ben with me, my older son. This time I have Michaela, my daughter, with me, so I have two of my older children. I guess all I need to get is the third one to come, and I'll have the whole set here. But he's not as big into monster movies and that kind of stuff. But
There's still time. I mean, I don't know.
There is still time. I think now he just likes it. He wears it like a badge of courage. It's like a badge like I will not cross that line, and he can be rather stubborn. So it might take a few more years to get him over. Though he has seen some monster movies, but he's always leery that I'm going to totally scare him out.
What about the kaiju films? Did you watch Godzilla with you?
Yes, he does watch Godzilla.
Oh, there you go.
And he does watch. He's seen The Tingler.
Oh, okay.
Though he didn't like that as much. But when we saw The Tingler, it was a Rip Tracks version. And I think when you're seeing it, if you've never seen the movie prior, and his probably didn't like it because he's having trouble following what was going along in the movie because they kept talking over the dialogue. And it was an understandable problem. I was concerned, and I said to him, we own The Tingler, why don't you watch it again? He goes, no. But down the road, I'm hopefully going to persuade him over and get him to watch that Vincent Price goodness.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Anything else you're looking forward to this weekend?
Victoria Price tonight.
That is tonight, yeah.
Tonight, I'm looking forward to her talk and, of course, watching The Mad Magician prior to that, which I have yet to see.
Oh, you've never seen it?
Never seen it. It'll be my first time seeing it.
Up for a Rally Award this year.
I heard, but it's in a bad year for it to do well. 54.
And 1954 is brutal. What was it about? What was in the water in 1954? Well, other than the Gillman, what else was in the water in 1954 that made it so special?
There was something a little bigger in the water than the Gillman.
Yeah, Godzilla started in the water too.
Yes, Gojira came out of the water, and then it was a total game changer because then you had all the giant monster movies from Toho. And it came from that with the man in the suit type thing, which people sometimes belittle. But I mean, the model work and everything with that film.
Subaraya's work.
Oh, and direction by Honda. It's such a wonderful film.
Yeah.
And watching it win and hearing it win the rallies, then the results come in, is going to be so good to know that Gojira finally knocked off the creature of the Black Lagoon as it should happen.
You knocked down the creature from the black. Okay.
Well, I mean, I got to play up Godzilla a little bit just because there's a little PR problem on this particular podcast
just
for Godzilla.
Just because for the past 3.5 years, Creature's been campaigning for the rally wins.
It started early and it started often, but I mean, really Godzilla doesn't need to have a campaign like Creature does because he is the king of the monsters.
All right. Well, actually, I'm real curious to see how it turns out. But that's down the line, man. We're here at Bash right now.
I want to say there's one other film in that 54 range that...
Them. Yeah.
That is just a battle house of films and monsters. And
it's a crazy ballot this year. Crazy ballot.
I don't know where it's going to go. I'm, like you said, very curious. I mean, maybe Creature and Godzilla will split a vote. Them comes in for the win, takes the rally with the picnic prize. I don't know.
Yeah. So the rallies, I mean, that's coming up down the line when we announce the winners for that. The ballot's open for that now, but the ballot is closed for the top 100 monster movies, which we are unveiling here at the Batch. As of this recording, we are through 60 through 100?
Yes, we've unveiled 41 for 100.
Okay.
41 for 100, and we're soon going to be unveiling 21 for 40.
Okay, that'll be coming up later today, and then tomorrow, the top 20 as well as the top 20 Vincent Price films as voted by the listeners of Monster Kid Radio.
Yes, and I'll tell you, I think the way that we've been doing it, unveiling them 20 at a time, has been interesting because we've had a lot of people come back, a lot of discussion. Some people get rather heated in their discussion about why my favorite movie's down that low, and I'm thinking, well, did you vote? They go, no. I said, well, you got to vote next year.
Next year.
And so we have a lot of people that have been interested with the list. Some people saying they can't wait to see the top 20 because they figure it'll be 20 films they can introduce people to that have not seen monster movies, and so it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Well, what do you think about playing around with the Classic Five, Steve?
Let's do it.
All right, here we go. First card, Steve. Do you prefer Christopher Lee or Peter Cushing?
Christopher Lee or Peter Cushing? Oh. I'm going to go with Peter Cushing because he's in my favorite Hammer film, The Seven Golden Vampires. And everything that Peter Cushing is in, gets raised up a little bit. I mean, he can be in something that is just totally going nowhere, and you're just going to enjoy what Peter Cushing does. I'm not holding anything against Christopher Lee. I love Christopher Lee too, but it's just if you had to put me between the two, it's Peter Cushing.
Okay, all right. So Cushing gives every movie a pushing.
Yes.
That is awful. I'll never say that again. Card number 2. Son of Kong or Son of Godzilla?
Son of Godzilla.
I was about to say, really? But, having talked with you so much this weekend about kaiju films, that makes sense. Well, Son of Kong is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I enjoy both. I mean, again, you can't go wrong either one. But if you had, like we were saying, when you pick between two, how can you go wrong? If you watch Son of Kong, you're going to enjoy yourself. You watch Son of Godzilla, you're going to enjoy yourself. Being a big Godzilla fan that I am, I'm going to go with Godzilla.
Card number 3, Steve. I was a teenage werewolf or I was a teenage Frankenstein?
I was a teenage werewolf. Michael Landon. I like it way better than the other one. It's just I don't know. It's enjoyable. It's one of those you can just watch on a Saturday or Sunday afternoon and just relax and just have a nice enjoyable flick. I've always liked werewolf movies more than Frankenstein movies personally because I like the conflict that you get because when they're not in wolf form, and that carries all the way back to Lon Chaney Jr.'s The Wolf Man, and you see that part where Frankenstein. What I love about that is the doctor part because you get there where the monster is like Boris Karloff and them are great, but they don't get to show as much of that emotional range because of the limiting because of the character they're playing.
Okay, all right. Card number 4 is from the Hammer deck. Not counting the original, what is your favorite Hammer Dracula film?
Not counting. Well, I think I just said that already.
I think you just did too.
The 7 Golden Vampires. I mean.
Yeah, I guess technically Dracula is in that film.
Dracula is in it in the very beginning and the very end, but he takes another persona, so he's really in it the whole film.
That's true. It is Dracula.
He's Dracula undercover. I grew up watching...
Okay, now there needs to be a spy movie set in the 70s, Dracula Undercover.
Why set it in the 70s?
Why set it in the 70s? Because that's the spy era, man, the James Bond stuff.
Yeah. It would just be great Draculas everywhere. Really, though, because you and I always like to talk about the vampire hunters.
Yeah,
that way.
Cave of the Living Dead and all that.
Cave of the Living Dead. I mean, just reverse it, and then you have Dracula and his... Imagine a TV show. Dracula and his minions, and the vampire hunters going at the minions, and then it ends, and it's 13-episode arc on Netflix or something like that, with the last 2 episodes of him... or her, whatever the vampire hunters are, against the man, the myth, the legend of Dracula.
Viewers will know when the show's about to get canceled because suddenly they fight Dracula. Just to wrap it all up.
Oh no, you see him all during the thing because he's like the Godfather pulling the puppet string. So you see him all the time. So you know he's the big bad, but the hunter and the Dracula don't meet until then. And the beauty of it is, if it does great, as we all know, Dracula always has ways to come back.
Right, that's right. All right, final card, Steve. It's a universal card. What movie do you prefer better, Steve? Revenge of the Creature or The Creature Walks Among Us?
Okay, the Revenge of the Creature is the one I like better than The Creature Walks Among Us. One, it's in 3D, because I always enjoy the 3D parts.
That's true.
With it. And when The Creature Walks Among Us, to me, I enjoy it, but it loses a thing because it's the creature walking among us. It's taking it out of that element that I really enjoy.
They change him. It's not... When the first time I saw it, I was like, Gillman, where's my Gillman? I've actually slowly warmed to it over the years, but not because of the monster stuff. It's the human story in this film that I really connect with. This infidelity thing, kind of, sort of, this almost love triangle thing. Love it. But Revenge, come on. It's 3D, it's John Agar, it's Jack Arnold. Come on.
We could keep going on with that, but it's just, I still think Revenge of the Creature is one of the better sequels during that time frame done from Creature of the Black Lagoon, because it's the way they tie in the beginning so much with that first film.
It's a direct continuation. I mean, it ties right back to it. They really cared about that part of it. And I feel like they didn't have to, because it's not like people saw these things on DVD, or anything. You saw it once, and that was it.
Well, I mean, and really, they didn't at that time. One, there wasn't too many sequels, and 2, nobody really cared. I mean, it was just like, just throw it out there. Nobody's going to know, as you say, because you see it once. There's no VHS, no DVD, no streaming, as there is nowadays. And so I think care they put with that little script adds a little more to it for me. Mm-hmm. And it's just fun. It's enjoyable. It's the creature.
And it's John Agar, man. John Agar.
I know
There
you.
needs to be a John Agar podcast.
I know you and John Agar have a bromance going on. I mean, we all know who your 50s girlfriend is. I think John Agar is like your bromance on one side, and in England, Peter Cushing is your bromance on the other side.
I've never had anybody accuse me of having a bromance with John Agar, but I'll take it.
I'm just saying.
I'll take it. And that just got a great look from somebody walking by. Thank you, sir.
And then if you throw in from Bela Lugosi, it's like you have a bromance with like 3 different guys going on right there.
Okay, I love Lugosi. I really do. I don't know if I could handle hanging out with the man. It would be very intense all the time. And everything that I've read about him, he loved his goulash. And he loved his very aromatic Hungarian food. And after a while, I don't know if I want to smell that. No offense to people who like that. I like it. But I'm just saying it would be very intense. Whereas John Agar, just kind of hang out, man. Talk about the women and the parties. And
if you're hanging out with John Agar, you better be ready to drink some stuff.
Well, at what point do I get to hang out with John Agar? That's the thing. When he finally cleaned up and that sort of thing. When he's doing summer stock, where do I get to hang out with him?
Well, if you can go back in your Wayback Machine, definitely don't hang with him when he's with John Wayne, because I don't think you'd be standing in the morning.
Yeah. So post Shirley Temple.
I think after he's cleaned up his stuff, you probably had the best fun with him.
Yeah, no, he actually met his second wife on the set of Revenge of the Creature. She is one of the dancers in the Lobster House scene or whatever. She's in there. So he met his future wife there, and she helped him kind of clean it up. He had one relapse, as far as I know, but other than that, pretty good. So
it is so tough to get over that stuff, and people sometimes make fun of these actors and actresses that go for rehab and come back, and they go back and forward. But it is a thing that's an ongoing problem, and it's really great that they're able to go and not succumb to these inner demons.
I mean, they're just people, Lon Chaney had his issues. I mean, and Lugosi's, painkiller issue, It's a thing. It happened. They're people. They,
Exactly.
How are we getting this dark, man?
It's not dark. It's actually looking at these people that recovered and came out of this stuff.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
I was thinking Lugosi and how he didn't.
Well, I think it was the Hungarian goulash.
That's what it was.
It's just totally.
But now I'm hungry, and I don't know if it's that or the diabetes.
I don't know either. Can you eat goulash?
Can I eat? I used to eat it a lot growing up. Yeah, my mom made some good goulash.
Well, no, I just didn't know. Her diet.
What's that? This is no, it's fine. No, it's all good, man. This is Monster Kid Radio. It is my weekly internet radio show where we talk about nothing but classic and sometimes not so classic genre cinema. So monster movies, whether it's Dracula, Frankenstein, giant leeches, Manos the Hands of Fate.
Killer Shrews.
It's every week. It's free to download or listen to on the website. And one of the features of the show is this game we have called the Classic Five, which I was just doing with Steve. It's like an icebreaker question where each one of these cards has a question on it, like, Steve, what do you prefer? The Amazing Colossal Man or Attack of the 50-Foot Woman?
Amazing Colossal Man.
Okay.
Mr. Big.
And
my answer's not wrong. I heard somebody saying out there that it was a wrong answer. It's my opinion, but my personal preference. There are no wrong answers.
But Allison Hayes is involved, which means your answer is wrong.
And I've got those for sale, actually, for $15 a deck. These are the expensive.
You're entitled to your opinion, and I validate your opinion. And I can help you with some therapy. Because she's wearing a stuffed tingler, and she thinks it's real. She keeps petting it, so I'm a little worried about her. I won't mention her name, but she lives in the Oregon region.
I think everybody knows.
Hey, that's what you're here for, right? Have a great time. Yeah.
Did you move one?
I did not move one. He bought a Monster Puzzler book, though. So.
Well,
thanks for playing the Classic Six with me, Steve.
You're welcome. And we had a little Dominique thrown in there who was razzing me on my pick. And then,
we need to do some more Allison Hayes on the show. We really do.
We do.
We really do.
I think Dominique should be your guest host on that Allison Hayes retrospective series.
Okay, so she did 50-Foot Woman. What else did she do?
She was in, pretty much every Corman film for a period of about.
Was she in Giant Leeches? No,
that was Yvette Vickers.
That's right. That's right.
She was in The Undead. My personal favorite is Gunslinger, where she was the villain to Beverly Garland's hero.
Okay.
She was really good in that movie, even though she hated it. She was in The Disembodied, where she played a voodoo priestess.
Sounds like you and I are going to be doing an Allison Hayes special. What do you
Yes.
think? It's on the radio. It's on the show. It's
committed.
Oh, no. Come on, Chris. I would love to have Chris and Steve swap spots if you're available for a few minutes.
Yeah, for a few minutes. Yeah, absolutely.
Paige and Christopher. The killer.
All right, so we've got, and we're going to keep it quick because it looks like he had something coming up. Christopher Page, Orphan Entertainment, the Time Shifters podcast. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you very much. How are you doing, Derek?
I'm doing good. What's your favorite thing of the Bash so far?
Actually just getting together with all the friends, the Bash friends. You know, the Monster Kid group and the B-Movie Clubhouse group. Seeing everybody that I see here every year. That's kind of really what I came up for this year. I really wasn't looking for a lot of stuff as far as movies. There's going to be some good films, and I was looking forward to seeing them. But for the most part, I just wanted to come out and hang out with my buds.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome. I keep seeing you go back and forth, so I hope you're like doing that with people all over the place.
Yeah, I'm kind of bumping into people here and there, and then I'm taking something to the car, and then coming back, and then yeah, exactly.
You want to do a couple of classic 5 questions before we let you go?
Yeah, we can try that. Yep.
All right.
I'm always a little nervous with this because I'm still catching up on some like classic monster stuff.
Hey man, no, there's no wrong answers. You've heard the show.
Yep,
There's no
that's
wrong
right.
answers with the Classic 5. Christopher Page
Yep.
of the Orphan Entertainment podcast, where people can ridicule you if you are wrong. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. No, Christopher Page, what is your favorite William Castle gimmick?
Oh, the gimmick. Did he do the buzz in the seats? Mm-hmm. That was a Castle gimmick, wasn't it? I think that is probably one of the most...
Tingler, right?
Yeah, that's for the Tingler.
Speaking of
Yeah,
which, yep.
yeah. I mean, that's talk about how kind of sort of visceral and just, it's right there. You're going to jump. Yeah, I like that.
Okay, all right. Question number 2. What is your favorite big bug monster movie?
I got to go with them. I mean, that seems like a go-to. I know that seems like kind of like a cop-out.
It's
but,
a good film. It's a good film. Yeah, no arguments there. Card 3 is a Hammer card.
Oh, okay.
What is your favorite Hammer film monster design?
Trimony. I don't even know if I can answer that. Because there's a lot of the Hammer monsters that I haven't seen outside of Frankenstein and Dracula and stuff like that. Mummy I've seen. I do like their Frankenstein. I thought that was kind of the neat because that just
Christopher Lee Frankenstein.
The Christopher Lee Frankenstein, yeah, because it just looked like a decaying body.
It's a little bit more true to the novel than Universal's.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I'll just stick with that for now. Yeah.
Okay, all right. From the Monster Bash exclusive expansion, when was the first time you went to Monster Bash?
This will be my 4th bash.
Okay.
So right this year. So whatever that math is, 2014.
It's still early in the day for me, Pacific time. So yeah, I won't do the math. 4 months ago, and the final card, it's a Universal card. What's your favorite Karloff Lugosi Universal collaboration?
See, this is where I'm lacking a little bit. This is where I'm kind of catching up on some of this stuff.
Okay. Well, you've seen some though.
I've seen a few. I've seen some. So who was it?
Lugosi and Karloff.
Lugosi and Karloff. What was the one that I just... Oh, they ended up playing chess together. It was was that Black Cat? Is that right?
Yeah.
That was a good one.
So
that was a good one. I was kind of one of those ones where I've heard about it. I need to watch it. Wow, I'm glad I watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is so good, man. Yeah. I love everything about the Black Cat. Save the couple the comic relief couple that's in there.
Oh, okay.
I think you kind of maybe.
Okay, it's been a little while since I've watched it, so it's not,
But no, Karloff and Lugosi, smart man. Okay, you win.
All right.
You win the game. You win the game.
Good.
Christopher has won the Classic 5.
Woo, finally, someone's won. Hey, speaking of Classic 5, if I can kind of jump, like almost sort of go back to a question that was asked on one of your shows. I don't know who you were asking and everything. So you asked the question, who would you like to see play Frankenstein who hasn't?
Okay.
The Frankenstein monster, I should say, or whatever.
I don't want Joshua Kennedy to play. Oh, wait. He's not even listening.
And I had the thought, because it was only just after you talked about the Rondo Awards, has anyone ever suggested Rondo Hatton?
We were playing the game last night, and that I actually brought that up. And I wonder if Rondo Hatton would be a good Frankenstein because of the not.
He's already got the disproportionate features and everything. I think you slap some makeup on him. Maybe does he even really need the platform shoes? He seemed like he was a pretty big guy, very a lot of presence. I think he would have been an awesome Frankenstein monster.
Okay.
I just wanted. That's probably one of those things I should have wrote in or called into the show like months ago when you first came up with this.
It's on the show now, man. It is part of podcasting.
It's like
history,
I've never heard anyone say Rondo Hatton. That seems like a gimme.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, so where can people find you?
All right, go to timeshifterspodcast.com and orphanentertainment.com, and then from there you'll find links to everywhere else that you can find us on the web.
And I
there you go.
I have promos for both of those in rotation on Monster Kid Radio.
Yes, you do. Thank you very much.
So, yeah, people should be able to find you, man. Christopher,
Absolutely.
You're awesome.
Derek,
Thank
you're
you so
just
much.
as awesome. Thank you.
I have a lot to live up to with all these fellow podcasters and other
No,
incredibly cool Monster
the
Kids.
Monster Bash, you cannot throw a black cat without hitting a podcaster.
That's true. I was telling was it Dominico I was telling this earlier? One surgical strike and half the genre podcasting is done.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, another MKR. I'm going to call you a regular, even though you've only technically been on once. You've written in quite a few times. And we are going to have you on again to talk about The Man Without a Body because it sounds crazy. It always has. Micah Harris, man, welcome back. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Monster Bash. How you doing?
I'm doing very well here among my fellow monster children.
Is this the first bash for you?
First bash.
But not the first time in this hotel.
Not the first time in this hotel. I was here last year for Pulp Fest, my first Pulp Fest.
Okay.
So
What do you think of the bash so far?
it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, had a great day.
And you got in last night, though, right?
Uh-huh.
So
Late.
What's your favorite thing so far that you've done?
Meeting and talking with the actress who was the would-be victimized little girl by Lucy in Horror of Dracula.
Oh, nice.
She was just incredibly warm lady and nice and fun to speak with.
Yeah, Janina Faye just seems really sweet.
Very much so. Very much so, yeah.
Very
I liked
cool.
her. Uh-huh.
And is there anything else you're looking forward to now while you're here?
I'm looking forward to seeing the blaring of Planet Eros with an audience. And then hearing the question and answer with Joyce Meadows. Mm-hmm. And I talked to her a little bit about that, about being the object of desire and, almost giving the brain of Planet Eros a aneurysm out of his lust for her. She told me she's done Tennessee Williams, and I asked her, well, which took more preparation, the Glass Menagerie or the brain from Planet Eros, and she talked like she almost took one as serious as the other, she gave it her all.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I did stop by and I've chatted with her briefly, and I'm really hoping to get an interview with her later. She seems very nice.
She is very nice. Yeah,
So.
you see that bikini picture of her there? The brain would have exploded. I mean, if he was flipping out when she's just dressed like June Cleaver, in the 50s stuff, seeing that much skin, I don't think the brain, best line ever, we'll rule the world, you and me and Sally, a very exciting Earth female. It's hey, calm down, boy. And that's like easy brain. Is that Aros or Arouse?
Yeah, right?
That's right, yeah.
Maybe that's where they got the title,
Yeah.
Well, I probably won't bring that up if I interview her because I don't want her. I want her to stay a little bit longer than No, I've heard she's really cool, so I'm looking forward to chatting with her, and I do want to hear her Q&A, which is I believe tomorrow, but the movie's tonight at the Drive-In Outside.
Okay.
Which if listeners, if you haven't been at the Monster Bash before, just to kind of paint a picture for you, there's a nice field out there outside the parking lot, outside the hotel. They set up a screen, they set up a projector, they show a movie, and it's so much fun. I hope people brought their picnic blankets and stuff because you're sitting on the grass, but it's just a lot of fun to be out there and watch this movie outside with people. And then things are going past that. There's a screening of Joshua Kennedy's silent film later tonight after that. The gift toss is later on tonight. There's just so much stuff. So, I mean, it's going to be fun. And then Victoria Price is here in a little bit. So she's got a talk as well. So it's going to be a good time, man.
It's fantastic.
All right, so I've got you sitting here. It's time for the Classic 5, right?
Oh, again? Okay, we're up to working on Classic 10.
Well, you haven't played it yet on Mike this weekend.
Oh, okay.
All right, card number 1. This is from the Monster Bash exclusive deck. What 2 classic science fiction movies would make a perfect double feature?
Invasion of the Body Snatchers and Invaders from Mars.
Okay.
Yeah, the Menzies, the kids' after-school special version of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
All right.
Yeah.
Which would you play first in that lineup?
Wow, that's a good question. Actually, do you want a downbeat evening or a upbeat evening? Because between the two, Invasion of the Body Snatchers has a more upbeat ending. Yeah.
It really does, even though it's got that whole, and they're coming for you.
Yeah, because they saved I would do the color one last.
Okay.
Invaders from Mars.
Okay. All right, card number 2. Who's your favorite giant monster, King Kong or Godzilla?
King Kong.
Wow, that was fast.
33 King Kong's my favorite movie. And I'm not, without affection for Godzilla by any means.
Sure.
If you'd asked me that when I was 12 years old, I would probably say Godzilla. But, yeah, Kong is of mythic proportions. And, I love classic Kong.
Okay.
33 Kong.
All right.
That's the Kong I'm talking about.
There you go. No, yeah, hey, man, I'm on board. All right. Next question. Colin Clive or Peter Cushing?
Peter Cushing. Peter Cushing.
That's the more popular answer here.
Yeah, Peter Cushing is the man.
The next question here, Micah. Who's your favorite mad scientist?
Peter Cushing as Victor Frankenstein. Yeah. And if you ask me who my favorite Hammer Glamour girl is, guess who it's not going to be?
It's Peter Cushing.
No, it's not Peter Cushing. No, in this case.
All right, final card. This is from the Universal expansion. Una O'Connor as the Invisible Man's Jenny Hall, or Una O'Connor as Bride of Frankenstein's Minnie.
I hadn't seen Invisible Man in a long time.
Well, can you really see the Invisible Man? I'm just saying. I know what you mean.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I walked right into that one. Wow, I guess, I'm not really that keen on Una anyway. But so, sure, Bride of Frankenstein.
Okay.
Why not why couldn't he have just thrown her into the mill at the beginning of the tent?
She has a dual role in that movie. If you watch the very beginning sequence with Mary Shelley and all that, she's the maid walking the dogs.
Yeah, she was great.
Keeping her mouth shut.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Best part ever. Yeah. Yeah. But, a little Una goes a long way.
A little Una goes a long way. I agree with you. That's very true. That needs to be on a T-shirt.
Once the squawking begins, please heft her over into the depths of the burned out mill, monster, please.
All right, man. Well, that was the Classic 5. How do you feel?
About the same as before, except maybe a little relieved. You never know what you're going to get with the deck.
That's true. That's true.
Although, one of those questions was actually one that I looked at last night from having purchased my own Classic 5 deck and tried it out. So I had a little bit of a prep.
Oh, okay.
I had a cheat sheet.
Hey, there's no winners or losers, man. There's no right answers. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I love that thing. Like I told you, I want it on my coffee table when I go home.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, I'll keep you in mind when I do more expansions.
Yeah, do that.
I will.
Yeah.
I will. I've got a kaiju deck in the works, and then a deep cut, real deep nerdery type stuff in the works.
Deep nerdery.
That's right. The real hard stuff. It is Sunday morning, and I don't think the dealer's room's open. The movies are showing because they're always showing, and people are starting to come down, including podcast luminary, author, soon-to-be world-renowned movie producer, and one of my favorite Nics, Nic Brown. How you doing, man?
Oh, Derek, thank you very much for having me on the show. I'm doing great this morning, man. It's definitely a Sunday morning.
How's the Bash treated you so far?
The Bash has been a lot of fun this year. It's really, really been a lot of seeing all the folks that, like a lot of the listeners to the B-Movie podcast, getting to see you guys, getting to just hang around with folks who appreciate good quality older cinema. Because I hang around with a lot of folks when I'm doing the filmmaking and stuff who think something from the 1980s is really, really old. So, oh my God, that was made before I was born. How can we watch it?
Nick, we are older. I try not to think about that, though. I feel energized here, so maybe not.
Well, this is a good environment to feel energized in because everybody's... they call us monster kids, and I think there's a reason that the kids is at the end of it, because that comes out when we're at events like this, and we can talk to other people who appreciate this stuff, because it's not often you can have a conversation with people about which Vincent Price movie is your favorite, or what Frankenstein is best, or you can say the name John Carradine and people don't think of his son in a closet.
Wow. Well, that's something I didn't expect to think about at Monster Bash.
Hey, I always manage to bring in the lowest common denominator.
But it is Nick, so I probably shouldn't have been. So, What's going on with the films, man? You've been doing a lot of film stuff. How's your IMDb page?
Actually, I have a surprisingly long list of credits on IMDb, but that's beside the point. Because somebody looked me up. I'm Nic Brown 7, by the way. Because apparently there's 6 other Nic Browns with NIC. Sure, why not? But no, the film stuff's going along pretty well. Actually, we've our action comedy Loss Prevention. The ink is not dry on anything yet, but we're very, very confident that we're going to have it on a streaming service before the end of the year.
Oh, wow.
Through a distributor, and we can't really say what streaming service it is until something is signed.
Sure.
But the deal is negotiated. We're just waiting for some finalities on it.
And that's the one with Al Snow,
Al
right?
Snow,
Yeah.
and Vernon Wells from Commando.
That's right.
And The Road Warrior. Yeah, and by the way, Vernon Wells, 70-something years old, was very happy to tell me he still owns his assless chaps from The Road Warrior.
Did he bring him to set?
Thank God he did not, because he probably would have worn them. He's a fun guy.
What are some of the things that you've enjoyed about seeing at the Bash so far? Any guests or movies? Or
It's funny because the very first film that I saw when I showed up here was Day of the Triffids.
Oh, nice.
And I didn't realize this because it's been a while. It's been 10 years. But Day of the Triffids was the first movie I did for the Movie podcast with Vince.
Oh, wow.
And it was also the last time I watched Day of the Triffids, it occurred to me.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, because I remember I'd watched Day of the Triffids, I'd watched the BBC miniseries from the 80s, I'd watched the 2006 BBC miniseries, and I'd read the book. So I was kind of just Triffided. I had my Triffid level at high. Mm-hmm. That was really cool watching it again, though, and I'd forgotten some of the little, tricks that they'd done in the movie to make it different from the book and make it workable, because the book was a much bigger story than they could do in 1 2-hour movie.
Right.
But it's good, and a funny one about that is I kept telling Mary that Richard Kiel was in it, because as you know, I'm terrible with names. And Mary kept going, Richard, I don't see him. Where is he? I don't see him. He's right there. No, that was Howard Keel, ladies and gentlemen. A completely different keel. So, but now I'm on an even keel, so it's better.
Oh, well, there you go. There you go.
And I went to Frank's talk about the Ghosts of Frankenstein.
Wasn't that good?
That was very good. And, he takes a very interesting approach on this, because he really takes the stories and builds the world that would be around them that we never see. We get to go in and see 90 minutes or 2 hours of a film, and that's all the story we get. And Frank's take on it is he builds the world that happens between the stories or after the stories. And if you've read his book on the Wolfman.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, it's really good. And I'm amazed by the detail that he's able to bring into that stuff. That takes a certain very special type of imagination, and I really appreciate that kind of work.
Frank is, I'm going to start calling him like the master of the headcanon, because, he can make it all just fit. And his thing about Return of the Vampire last year was he's a treasure, man.
Yeah, he is.
He really is.
And, this year's been, it's like I said, it's been a lot of fun. I love hanging out in the dealer room because, I love it and I hate it. Because I love it because there's so much cool stuff, and I hate it because it reminds me of what my budget is for events.
Because there's so much cool stuff.
Exactly. I will say we picked up a couple of very interesting werewolf books.
Oh, good.
Including Troy's just released his Paul
Paul Naschy book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Paul Naschy book, and we haven't had a chance to go through it yet, but it looks amazing.
My Paul Naschy knowledge is very low, and I know every time I say that, Rod rolls over a little bit weird, just wherever he's at. He's like, "Oh man, what's going?" But
you can't have vast knowledge of everything.
Well, I'm trying.
Well, you can try, but that's why there's always room for books like that, though, because it helps us all get up our knowledge and up our game on it. Because I'm really into werewolves and werewolf movies, but Paul Naschy's a sort of a blind spot for me. So, it's good for me, and that's something, Fiona and I are thinking about working on some projects, and if we do, that might be helpful for
I know years ago you guys were working on something. Is that maybe coming back?
It's possible. It's possible, but I don't want to. I don't want to bring it out specifically right now because we're actually doing a book proposal on it to some publishers. So I don't want to talk too much about the
those who know, those who don't, stay tuned.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep your fingers crossed.
Now there is one that I can talk about pretty freely. We're working up a list of movies right now for the 1960s B-movie cookbook.
Are you doing it?
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do it. The thing is, we spent a lot of time thinking about the movies to do for the B-movie cookbook, the 1950s, and there was actually, we cut it down to 15. The original list was about 40. And, well, we knew we weren't going to do 40. We were planning either 10 or 15. All right. And the thing is, you have to watch the movies and figure out if they fit a cookbook. Because there's some, I'll tell you, the biggest stretch we had, but I really wanted to get it in there, so I shoehorned and made it work, was Forbidden Planet. Because there is no food in that movie whatsoever. They disintegrate a pear at one point, and that's it. But they drink a lot.
I don't say there's a whole lot of booze.
So we made the leap that we would do, bourbon-themed desserts, and it was feeding the id. So, and that's how we justified that. But yeah, you got to, because we watched a couple of spaghetti westerns, and by their name, you're inherently like, hey, this is going to fit. But, the ones we watched didn't work. So we've got a couple more we're going to look at. But it takes a decent amount of time just to select the movies and then start building the recipes around them. And that's all Fiona. Okay, I couldn't cook my way out of a wet paper bag. But, I know the movies and she knows how to cook. So it's a good combination.
There you go. It's a good partnership. Yes. So Scott Morris.
I want to make a suggestion.
Okay.
Quatermass in the chicken barbecue pit.
Oh, okay. If we use that, I will give you credit for it, Scott. Quatermass in the chicken barbecue pit. I like that. Actually, Quatermass in the pit barbecue.
Yeah.
There you go. Then we can do pork or something too. But that's good. I like that. Oh no, I like that a lot. And actually, it's funny because coming to the Monster Bash gives me ideas for movies too. Because you start sitting there thinking about, 1960s, and you start thinking about different genres, and you forget about other stuff. So, like, I was watching The Time Travelers, and it's like, ooh, The Time Travelers, that's that's from the 60s, that's fair game, So, it's fun. And it's good to do a project like that with my wife, because our writing interests are very different. She's much more scholarly, and I'm much more, look out, there's a werewolf. So,
And Fiona's across the hallway giving us like a, huh?
Yeah, I was like, and she just walked up again at that moment. So, very appropriate.
So say it's probably a good partnership because she cooks and then you get to eat.
Well, there's that too. And that
right?
is, okay, I will say this is one of my bragging points about the cookbook. Because most time when you do a cookbook, you do fake food. You prepare food, you freeze it, you do something to it so it stays nice. You use Crisco instead of whipped cream so it doesn't melt. Seriously, those are tricks you do so you can take good pictures. And what we ended up doing was we prepared the meals, set them up, and then we took a lot of really fast photos, and then we ate them. So everything you see in the photos of food in the book, we turned around and ate within 10 minutes of those pictures being taken. So, it took a lot of rearranging in the house too, because I figured out that I could set up a table in front of our television and set scenes from the movies up in the background. So you'll see that in a few of the photos too.
So would you say some of these are true TV dinners?
Very true TV dinners. In fact, we would just pull the table away from the TV and eat. So, yes. And by the way, there's a tropical chicken recipe in there that is possibly my favorite chicken, and it's from hell it came. So I thank the Tabonga for the best chicken I've ever eaten.
So I want to jump tracks a little bit.
Okay.
Film-wise, the one movie we already talked about, and I'm assuming there's some other things kind of percolating, simmering a little bit.
Well, as a matter of fact, right now we're also looking at distribution for a horror film we did. It's a psychological thriller / sort of monster paranormal movie, and that sounds like a whole lot of stuff, and it kind of is. But it's called Wretch. And we're going to be actually looking at marketing that probably around November, December timing. We're going to start looking to really get that out to put it in front of some film distributors, because we think that one, I believe that's as good as some of the stuff that's come out recently that got major distribution deals, like It Comes at Night. Mm-hmm. I've seen that film. That was a really good film, but I think Wretch is just as good as that. So I want to try and get it in front of some real eyes for that. So I'm excited about that. And then we're in pre-production. Excuse me, I started to say post-production. We're actually in pre-production on one other film project right now. Not really able to say much about that at this point, but I'm excited about that, and we're also looking to start shooting that maybe in November. My filmmaking partner also works with the Asylum Haunted Attraction in Louisville, Kentucky. He's the production manager for a lot of the haunts that are involved in that. And because of that, October's not a good time for him. September's not a good time for me because I'm involved with the Scarefest Horror Convention. So we're putting out production until we'll probably start really cranking that in November.
Okay.
So we're excited about it, though. And, it's you got to keep moving or you sink. So we keep moving.
So the 7th Nic Brown on IMDb.
Yep.
The 2nd Nic Brown author on Google, right? Because there's another Nic Brown out there.
Who writes life-affirming, coming-of-age stories, whatever. When you Google Nic Brown, look for the werewolves. That's what you look for.
You were on the show once before.
Yep.
We did it then. We're going to do it again.
Uh-oh.
It's the Classic 5 card game.
All right, let's roll.
All right, card number 1. What is your favorite Vincent Price film?
My favorite Vincent Price film is A House on Haunted Hill. We discussed this already earlier when I was looking at your list of top 20 Vincent Price movies, because I think that is a really interesting movie, and I think it's one of Vincent Price's best performances, to be honest. And he's so just creepy, you don't know if you love him or hate him through the whole movie.
It's a solid film. Card number 2, Christopher Lee or Peter Cushing?
In a wrestling match, in a movie, and just in general context, I'm going to go with Peter Cushing.
It looks like you and your wife get to stay together a little bit longer.
Yeah, maybe just a little.
You just have the thumbs up.
Just a little bit longer. So,
all right, card number 3. This is from the Hammer expansion deck. What Hammer film character was the best dressed?
Okay, it's funny because we picked up a set of these cards yesterday, and we were playing them last night and rolled through that question, and I stick by my answer. Captain Kronos was the best dressed Hammer character. No thumbs down from anybody. He had frilly collars and got the booty.
Okay. All right. 4th card. What's your favorite classic 3D movie? This is from the Monster Bash expansion.
Okay, favorite classic 3D movie? That was such a fad for a while, and I like them. I'm going to go with The Creature from the Black Lagoon, though. I think that was... And
we're still friends.
Well, we are still friends, and let me tell you part of the reason. That was the first film I ever saw in 3D, and it was one of those things where they tried to play it on TV and make the 3D work. And my stepdad, God love him, the man was trying to make me happy. They got the 3D glasses, and he spent an hour adjusting that TV so that the 3D effect would work. And then we watched it, and it gave us all a headache. But, that's a special memory for me. So I'm going to have to go with The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Final card. Who do you prefer? William Castle or Bert I. Gordon?
Oh, God. Do I prefer gimmicks in the theater or giant stuff? I'm actually going to go with Bert I. Gordon.
Okay.
Because as a kid, my favorite movies were always ones where something got bigger than it should be. Whether it was ants chasing Joan Collins, giant rats chasing Marjo Gortner, which, by the way, say his name 5 times fast.
I'll
Good
pass,
luck.
Thanks.
Yeah, but, I really like Bert I. Gordon's stuff. And, William Castle, he's a great guy, and I love, House on Haunted Hill, what can you say?
Right.
But, got to go with giant ants and giant rats and puppet people and whatever else you can get. Which, by the way, why did he call it puppet people? They weren't they were miniature people. Come on. But anyway, I digress.
Well, Nic, I am always happy to see you guys at a convention. It's one of the best parts of coming to these things is running into old friends and spending time with people. People can hear you on the B-Movie Cast when it comes out, and B-Movie Man is still the best place to find you online?
B-Movie Man's a good place to find me online. You can also find me at thebmoviecookbook.com.
Okay. There's always links in the show notes to everybody I have on the show, so we'll make sure there's a link.
Well, I appreciate that, and thanks for having us on. It's always great to catch up with you, Derek. I love it.
So earlier in the weekend here at Monster Bash, Fred came by the table. Fred Lane, you're with MUFON, right? The
Yes, sir.
Mutual UFO Network?
Yes, sir.
Well, what is that for people who don't know?
Well, MUFON started back in 1966, and it was basically after Blue Book folded, and there was a group of people who were still interested in investigating UFOs, and they formed the Mutual UFO Network. And now it's a worldwide organization with hundreds of people who are investigators. And I happen to be one of the state section directors in Pennsylvania, and I have a group of 3 investigators underneath me, one of which is my lovely and long-suffering wife.
How did you get interested in this kind of research?
Actually, it was a little bit of larceny when I was in the 4th grade in Catholic school, St. Anne's in Erie, and we had a little library in the back of the room. There was a little bookshelf with maybe 50 books, and for some reason there was a UFO book there, and I picked it up and I read it. And then I kept taking it out every single week till it got to the end of the year, and I just took it home and kept it.
I think the statute of limitations has probably expired.
I don't know. I don't know. You never know with the Catholics. You just don't know.
Now, or what's the connection between MUFON and UFO research and Monster Bash?
Well, monsters include, the sci-fi part of it, with the alien and the blob, it came from outer space, and all this. So it does really have a connection, and I've been into monsters ever since I saw King Kong when I was a boy. My parents had gone out. My sister was watching it, and I was up in the bedroom when I heard it, and I kind of snuck down, and I was sitting on the stairs behind her. She couldn't see me, and I was watching King Kong, and I was just absolutely blown away. And from that point on, I was just a huge monster fan. And after that, I went out in my local little drugstore they had there, and they had a Famous Monsters of Filmland. And I got that, and I hid it under my mattress because, my parents were just totally against this. And my mother found it, and to this day, I would have been better off had it had been Playboy. I'd have been fine, I think. But monster movie, no.
Have you been coming to Monster Bash for a while?
Yeah, we've been coming for the last 4 years. 4 years, yeah, and we just fell in love with this. It's just a wonderful, wonderful thing. The people are great. The people who run it, fantastic. What a job. Because we put on a one-day conference in Erie, and we do it. It takes us a year to put everything together, to get all we give all the speakers local products like wine and chocolate. So it takes us a while to get everything together. And to put this together for 4 days is just amazing. They do a great job. Great job.
Yeah, it is. Now, when we were talking about having you on, you said you had a story you wanted to tell. So I'm all ears, man.
I had a chance to talk with Edgar Mitchell, who was the 6th man to walk on the moon. And I said to him, Edgar, what went on up there? We went, we didn't go. And he looked me right in the eye and he said, we went all right. And he said, and we were never alone up there. He said, we were followed from the moment we left Earth's atmosphere to when we landed, and they would land and watch us. And he said, Armstrong and Aldrin, he said, you want to know how serious this is? He goes, go watch their press conference when they came back from the moon. He said, you'd think they'd be bouncing off the walls. They're the first men to walk on the moon. He says, go watch their press conference. They're mumbling, they're looking down. It's almost like they don't want to talk about it. And to this day, people who run into them, they don't want to talk about it. And he said, there's structures on the backside of the moon. He said, they airbrushed the pictures. He said, I know, I looked. He said, the moon is so odd. He said, the craters, they're different diameters, but they're the same depth. And he said, that's geologically just not possible. And he said, when we dropped our lander back down onto the moon's surface, it rang like a bell for an hour, like it's hollow somehow. And he said, again, unless there's a hollow portion in there, because it's just not possible. So he said, the next time you look up at the moon, be advised, there's probably somebody up there looking back at you. So that's a little something to sleep on tonight.
So, Fred, I got to ask you, if I put this on my podcast, do the Men in Black show up and shut me down? Is that going to happen?
I don't know. I don't know.
Are you putting me in danger here? Come on, man.
I'm just saying.
So on my podcast, we have a game that we play called the Classic Five.
Okay.
It's 5 questions about classic monster movies.
Okay.
There are no wrong answers. I've got
Okay.
a deck of cards here. They've all got the questions on
Okay.
them. How do you feel about playing the Classic Five?
Oh, absolutely, sure.
All right, card number 1. This is from the Hammer Films expansion deck. If you could have been on set during the production of any Hammer film, which one would it be?
The Mummy with Christopher Lee.
Would have been amazing.
Yeah, you weren't in the theater hiding under the seat.
Card number 2. What's your favorite Bela Lugosi role?
Oh, it has to be Dracula.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I my little granddaughter, she's 9 years old, and we sat and we watched it. Okay, and she watched it. Oh, I like that. Okay. A little later on, she goes home and the dog starts howling, and she goes, "Children of the night, what music they make!" And my daughter fell on the floor. She thought that was hysterical.
Right on. All right. Favorite film: House of Frankenstein or House of Dracula?
Oh wow. I'm gonna say the House of Dracula.
Okay.
You know,
the last one.
The last one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Card number 4. Who else do you think could have or should have played a werewolf?
Oh wow. She would have said Joan Rivers because she had a mouth on her like this big. I mean, geez. Who else should have played a werewolf? I think Mel Gibson. Mel Gibson definitely probably would have been a great werewolf.
Mel Gibson should have played a werewolf.
Wolf.
Let me pull out one more card for us
Sure.
here. Oh, okay, here we go. This is a good one of my favorites. It's from the Universal expansion deck of the game. Who do you prefer, Fritz or Igor?
Igor.
Yeah?
Or Igor. With a hump on either side.
No, it's Igor.
Igor, yeah. Yeah. You take the blonde, I'll take the one in the turban.
The reason why you like Igor better than, or Igor? Now you got me going.
The power of the power compels you. The
Right?
power.
Right? Just like him better, or is there?
I don't know. There's just something about, especially when Lugosi plays it. There's just something very, very creepy about it. It's just I don't know. I just like that.
So where can people find? I'm assuming there's a MUFON website, but do you have like a specific website for your chapter or your group?
Pennsylvania, yeah. We have the MUFONPA.com.
Okay. So I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes to that so people can find it.
Hey, it's been a good time.
One of the people that I really wanted to chat with at Monster Bash this year was Gregory William Mank. Mr. Mank, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Very nice to be here.
How's the bash treating you?
They're treating me wonderfully, and my wife Barbara as well, and we've had a very, very fine time.
You've got a new book.
New book.
I want to hear about the new book.
The new book is the book about the actor Leonard Getz, who played Jack the Ripper in The Lodger in 1944, and who before that year was over had died. Remarkable young actor. At his peak, he stood 6'3" and weighed about 340 pounds.
Wow.
Unfortunately, he decided that was not the kind of identity that he wanted. He didn't like that particular image. He didn't like the fact that he kept playing psychopaths in movies. He decided to try to change everything, went on a brutal diet, and in December of 1944, he died. He was only 31 years old. Very tragic story, but it also has a lot of positive things in it, a lot of laughs, a lot of good stories about the Hollywood of that era. He was a very, very colorful character, very ambitious young man, incredibly talented, and left behind some terrific performances. I mean, for such a young actor, he had a remarkable grab bag of acting tricks and so on and so forth that he was able to use. It's just incredible to think what he might have been able to have accomplished had he lived longer. So it was a great pleasure to do the book, and one of the people, in fact, that I was able to talk to was his niece, who actually lived with him in Hollywood for over a year when she was about 7 and 8 years old. And when he became successful, he sent for her. He said, "Come out for one summer and I'll spoil you rotten," basically.
Oh, wow.
And she ended up staying for a full year. She swam in Tyrone Power's pool. She went to school with Shirley Temple. She had all these. She said she lived like a fairy tale princess life for the year or so, that year and a few months that she lived with her Uncle Sam, as she called him. His actual first name was Samuel. And so there's a lot of good, colorful, fun information in the story. He was a great soul and a very witty man and a brilliant man. It's just a shame that he kind of went over the edge, late in his life and became obsessed with trying to accomplish, unfortunately killed him. So it was a great privilege to write it, and a great pleasure to do the research.
I know very little about the man, and just last year I finally watched The Lodger for the first time, and I was just taken by his performance.
Oh, yeah.
And then I went online, I was like, is there any information about this guy? I'm like, there's not a lot.
No.
I mean, I saw that you had your book coming, so I guess I got to wait for the book.
and much of what is out there is unfortunately not really valid because he was one of his little problems was that he tended to fantasize a lot about what reality really was, and among other things, he talked about the fact that when he was a boy, his father took him to England and put him in a private school, and that while he was there, he worked as a page boy at the Stratford-on-Avon Theatre and these sort of things. His father had died when he was 3. And I wrote to the schools he talked about, they had absolutely no record that he had ever attended there. So he was basically a Philadelphia boy who grew up with this incredible dream. One of the first things he did when he was a little kid was he would run around to the neighbors' houses and knock on the door, and they would answer the door, and he would say, "What kind of face is this?" And he would make what he would call his trapped rat face, or he'd do his Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde face, and these sorts of things. And he said, "Guess what face this is?" So he was consumed with this idea of being an actor. He just was absolutely obsessed with it, and he became absolutely brilliant at it. It's just unfortunate that things went off the rails the way they did, and that his last film, in fact, Hangover Square, actually came out after he had died. And if you watch that film, Hangover Square, which is a terrific film, wonderful horror film, maybe more of a melodrama than a horror film, but it's still a very, very disturbing movie in which he plays a schizophrenic. You can actually see the weight loss taking place. The film's shot out of order, and his weight varies dramatically from one scene to the next because he was on this horrible 500-calorie a day diet, which is nothing. I mean, that's just dreadful. But so he did everything big, including dieting, and unfortunately he did it too big, and that's what happened. Hopefully the book will get some attention for him because, as you say, he's largely forgotten. In fact, even going to the homes where he lived in Philadelphia as part of the research, the house where he lived when he was born, his later childhood homes, nobody there had ever heard of him. I say, you're living in Laird Kriegar's house. And who? They say, who was he? I mean, of course, it is a long time ago, 1944. It's a lot of years ago since he's been gone. But I'm glad that people like you and me remember him, and hopefully, hopefully, this book will get some more attention for him.
You've been writing and publishing for a long time.
Long time.
How many books do you have your name? Do you know?
Oh, gee, I'm not sure. It depends on how you count them as far as co-author books and so on and so forth. But it's probably about maybe 12 or 15.
Wow. What is your connection to this type of film? I guess, could you call it a genre?
I think it was a childhood fascination, which was kind of inexplicable when I was, only 6 years old. Shock Theater came to Baltimore, and something about those old films just absolutely hooked me. And I can remember as a little kid talking to my dad in the car, who knew movies very well, and I would say, what was Boris Karloff really like? Or, were he and Bela Lugosi friends? Or, this sort of thing. I think that everybody figured that fascination would eventually go away, and it just got worse. It just gets deeper and deeper every year. So, but it's harmless and it's fun.
Yeah, no, I love it.
Yeah.
We have a game that we play on Monster Kid Radio. It's called the Classic Five. I've got a deck of cards here. There's a whole bunch of questions about monster movies. What do you prefer better? It's like an icebreaker conversation starter. I'd like to play the game with you real quick.
Sure.
All right, card number 1. What 2 1940s monster movies would make a great double feature?
Oh, gee. I would say Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman and House of Frankenstein.
Oh, there you go. Mm-hmm. That's a good pick. That's good. I like it. All right, which movie do you prefer, Greg? The War of the Worlds or When Worlds Collide? If you had to pick one.
War of the Worlds.
Yeah. That's what most people pick, I think. But, I like When Worlds Collide, but it's War of the Worlds.
Yeah, War of the Worlds is hard to beat.
Okay, card number 3. Bert I. Gordon or Roger Corman?
Roger Corman.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think probably, again, because of childhood connection, seeing a lot of his films when I was a kid or a teenager and seeing them in Baltimore at the Vilma Theater and that sort of thing. So
okay.
certain affection there for
good
Corman.
connection there.
Yeah.
Okay. Card number 4, Lon Chaney or Lon Chaney Jr.?
Oh, gee. Surprisingly, I'm going to say Lon Chaney Jr.
Yeah?
Yeah, I mean, I know Chaney was brilliant. Chaney, the father, was brilliant, but I think Chaney Jr. was very underrated and could do all kinds of things that he generally isn't given credit for being able to do. I think it was probably more of a challenge for him, perhaps, than it was for his father to be able to work in the career. I think he did very well. I think he's a very underrated actor. So, yeah.
I agree. I feel like there needs to be more attention. Because people talk about, Wolfman or Of Mice and Men. And then people talk about his demons that he had later in his life. But I feel like there's not been a real proper, solid biographical examination of what he really did, which was amazing.
It was. With an incredible body of work. And he worked in all different kind of genres and all those credits. And, yeah, he was pretty remarkable.
I love the Inner Sanctum films. And I feel like they don't get enough attention.
No. And Weird Woman, in fact, is one of my favorites.
Mine too, man. I absolutely adore Weird
Woman is terrific. Weird Woman is, I have to watch that every year. That's just great.
I think I have watched it every year. I love that. And when I saw it in the store as a DVD box set for like $6, like, are you kidding me? This is so undervalued.
Oh, yeah,
but
you got it.
I gotta get it, man.
You gotta get it.
I give it away as Christmas gifts to people. Like, you gotta watch this stuff.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect.
All right, final card. In your opinion, what classic monster movie could use a novelization?
Oh, gee. That's a very good question. I'm going to give a strange answer, probably. I'm going to say Murders in the Zoo.
Ooh,
yeah! I think that
fun.
I think if you could get into sort of the backstory of how Lionel Atwill meets the Kathleen Burke character and the early days and nights of their marriage and some of his other adventures in the jungle with animals and what kind of led him to become as incredibly unhinged as he was, that would be fun. That would be a page turner.
That would be fun. See, for me, I always pick The Amazing Transparent Man because I want to know the backstory of those guys and how they all got together and what he's holding over everybody,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No, that's awesome. Well, that was the Classic 5, man. How do you feel?
I feel great. It's very nice to be here. And Derek, always nice to see you and to spend some time with you. And I will look forward to seeing you next time.
Where can people find you online? Do you have a website?
Just GregoryMank.com. Please visit. And I always look forward to hearing from folks. So that would be great.
Thanks, man.
Okay. Thank you.
Game called The Classic 5. I play it on the Monster Kid Radio podcast every week, every chance I get. I've got a deck of cards here. Each one of these cards has a this or that style question. There's no wrong answers. It's all about classic monsters. Joseph, and I'm sorry I'm going to mispronounce your last name if I try it.
Kolakowski.
Kolakowski. Joseph, you ready to play The Classic 5?
Yes, I am.
All right, card number 1, Joseph.
All right.
What one black and white monster movie would you like to see colorized?
I don't like to see anything colorized.
Yeah, neither do I, but,
Which one should be colorized? I would like to see some color movies in black and white.
Hey, there you go. That's the right answer. That's the right answer, man. All right, card number 2. Colin Clive or Peter Cushing?
I like the older stuff. I like Colin Clive.
Colin Clive?
Yeah.
Okay. I love Peter Cushing, but I think Colin Clive needs more attention. I really do.
Yeah, and Peter Cushing did a lot more stuff, too. So
True. All right, card number 3. What's your favorite Bela Lugosi role?
Oh, actually, this is not that obscure. I guess Dr. Paul Carruthers, the Devil Bat.
The Devil Bat?
Yeah, that one is a lot of fun.
I love that movie so much.
Yeah.
I love that movie so much.
I watch that all the time, and he's very good in that. And it's kind of funny because Carruthers doesn't really sound like a Hungarian name,
He often played a lot of characters that didn't sound Hungarian by name.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Moto.
All right, card number 4. What's your favorite Ray Harryhausen creation?
What's your favorite Ray Harryhausen?
20 miles Swift.
You heard the way he said? Say it into the microphone.
20 miles Swift.
Right on. That's a cool one,
20
right?
miles to Earth. Yeah, that's mine too.
It's a great one. That's a really good movie. Awesome.
There we go.
Right on. All right, final card. Who never appeared in a Universal monster film, but you wish they had?
Ooh.
Godzilla.
Yes.
There we go.
I always say there are no right answers or wrong answers to this, but I think you nailed it, man.
That's Solomon. You got it. You won the game.
You won the game. Good job, man.
Thank you, Derek. Congratulations on your 4-y.
Thank you. And thanks for listening to the show and all your support, man. Really appreciate it. Now, you told me you have a YouTube channel?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel, so you could just look up
Joseph Kolakowski, Kolakowski. I'm a rabbi. It's a lot of religious stuff too, but I do talk about monster movies. I talk current events. I talk about whatever's on my mind.
Okay.
A lot of, sometimes pop culture. Sometimes I just sing random.
Yeah?
Which
Okay.
I'm not very good at singing, but sometimes just make up the words when I don't know the words.
Well, I like to try to promote, the fellow Monster Kids, and I
Yeah.
know you've listened to the show a couple of times, so I'll make sure there's
You
a link.
want to play? Yeah.
I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes. I want people to be able to,
Okay.
support each other, So
Yeah, awesome.
I appreciate it, man.
Thank
that was
you.
fun.
Yeah, it was. Thank
All right.
you.
Have a good
Anyone
one,
else
man.
want to play? Mommy, you want to play?
Yeah? Right on.
She's a voiceover. She's a singer.
Yeah.
Are you?
I was
Okay.
a professional singer.
Okay, and so Mrs. Kolakowski.
Yeah, my name's Millie.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay.
She sang in Carnegie Hall.
Okay, but that's not that big of a deal.
She won a Grammy.
I was on a recording that won a Grammy.
Really?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congrats.
Thanks. I didn't get the Grammy. My conductor got it, but
But that's still
yeah.
something. That's still something. All right, so you want to play the Classic Five?
I would love to play the Classic
All right,
Five.
here we go. So let's see, card number 1, who do you prefer, Vincent Price or Boris Karloff?
Oh my goodness, it's so splitting hairs. We're gonna go with preference.
This one wants Vincent Price.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
totally saying Vincent Price in my era. I'm gonna go with Karloff.
Yeah?
Yeah, that's a really tough one for me, but I'm gonna go with Karloff.
Well, they're both great.
They're both amazing
And-
and good friends.
Yeah, and when they're in a movie together, it's even better.
It's the best.
There you go. That's a win. Card number 2, who else could have or should have played a mad scientist?
I would have loved to see a female mad scientist, like a Elsa Lanchester mad scientist. I think she would have killed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with that.
Wow. All right. Card number 3, this is actually a Monster Bash exclusive card.
Sweet.
How many times have you been to Monster Bash?
I think this is 5.
This is number 5?
Yeah, and we were here in Hart a few times that we couldn't make it because of, work obligations
Real
or
life.
other things, holidays and that sort of stuff, but 5.
Okay.
And hope to be at many, many more.
Yeah, we're thinking coming back in October.
Yeah, we can't,
It'll be our first October one, I think.
yeah, because it's always during our holidays, so we can never come during October. This one's after the holidays, so we're yes.
Right on. All right, card number 4, Dr. Pretorius from Bride of Frankenstein
Mm-hmm.
or Dr. Neiman from House of Frankenstein.
I'm going to go with Pretorius.
Yeah?
That's not even a question for me. Yep, straight up.
But you picked Karloff last time.
Yeah, I know.
I
That's what I was
did.
wondering. So
I know. I know, but it's not about the acting for me. I think the character he's more subtly evil.
Yeah.
You kind of sympathize with him a little bit, but he's real. Also, I don't know. That's just my
It's a
thought.
better movie also.
The character I think appeals to me a little bit more.
I always wish there was more Pretorius out there.
Yeah.
He only showed up in the one movie, but he makes such an impression. I want
I know.
more.
He's amazing.
I want more.
And I think that it would have made a cool spin-off movie.
Ooh, yeah.
Pretorius goes to the zoo or whatever.
Pretorius prequel because he died at the end.
Yeah, or a Pretorius
what led him to
backstory.
that point? Yeah,
Right.
I want to know what got him there. Or
Right.
his relationship with Frankenstein.
Godzilla!
Yeah. Or Godzilla. whatever.
Godzilla could be there too.
All right.
One more.
Final card. Who's your favorite actor to play the Phantom of the Opera?
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's so difficult. So if it's Claude Rains versus Chaney, I'm going to have to go with Chaney.
Okay.
He basically set the standard for the Phantoms that we know.
That's true. That's true.
I don't know what else to say about that.
I like Chaney's the standard. I mean, he's
Yeah,
the standard. I think Herbert Lom, the Hammer film version,
Yeah,
is
it's
a little
also
underrated. Is underrated,
really
so.
a very understated and I don't know, a human performance. You're right.
Yeah. But no, Chaney,
I agree.
I mean-
but Chaney's a classic, so
Chaney's
I
a
got to go with
classic.
that.
All right, man. Well, that was the Classic 5. Thank
Yay.
you for playing.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So I got the whole family here. What are your guys' names?
What's your name?
Crazy.
Rosalind.
Rosalind. Faith. What's your name? Sally. And what's your name, man? Solomon? Okay. Do you guys like classic monster movies, classic movies? Yeah. I kept hearing you guys talk about Godzilla. Are you big fans of Godzilla?
So you can't just laugh if you want to play the game.
Yes.
It's hot.
Okay. What is your favorite Godzilla movie?
Godzilla vs. Mafia.
Is that what everybody likes, or do you guys have other ones?
Yeah, you can each say your own.
You can each say your own.
Godzilla vs. King Kong.
King Kong
Ooh.
versus Godzilla.
That was the very first one I watched. That was that's what hooked me. That's what hooked me.
First one I saw was Godzilla versus Megalon. I taped it off Channel 5 like late at night.
Do you have a favorite Godzilla movie?
Godzilla Revenge.
Godzilla's Revenge? Okay. Okay. Do you have one, Rosa?
Godzilla vs. Gigan.
Godzilla versus Gigan. Gigan's pretty cool. Gigan's pretty cool. That's a good answer. That's a good answer. Do you want to do another one?
Yes.
Okay. Do you like King Kong or Son of Kong better?
King Kong.
King Kong?
King Kong.
King Kong.
What about you, Solomon?
What about you?
Son of Kong? Okay.
Please. King Kong or Son of Kong? King Kong?
You want to do another one?
Frankenstein.
Okay. What was your favorite movie that you've seen at Monster Bash?
Anytime or this time?
Anytime. Anytime.
What's your favorite movie you saw at Monster Bash?
The Mam Edition.
Did you see it last night?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really cool one with Vincent Price.
Ghost of Frankenstein. What was your favorite movie?
You want to tell them what movie is your favorite you saw at Monster Bash?
I think the Bowery Boys.
The Bowery Boys. Those are pretty cool. Those are pretty funny. Okay. Thanks for playing, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, guys. Mark, how you doing, man? And I always mispronounce your last name when I try to say it.
It's Matzke.
Matzke.
Yeah.
Formerly, well, not really formally because it's not gone, but Monsterland, Ohio.
Correct.
And you're doing a couple of other things now, too, right?
Yes. I have fallen in with a group called Small Town Monsters. It's buddy Seth Breedlove and we used to do a podcast called Sasquatch, a show about Bigfoot.
Mm-hmm.
And when Seth left the show to go Small Town Monsters full time, he sort of bequeathed the show to my son and me.
Mm-hmm.
And we pushed that forward for about 50 episodes and then set that one aside too, so that we could work more full time on the films.
Yeah.
My son does production assistance, and I've actually written and narrated. One of the films is called Invasion on Chestnut Ridge, which tells the story of weird happenings actually just southeast of Pittsburgh here.
Okay.
And I'm co-writing a new film coming out in October called Bray Road Beast, which is based on the Wolfman sightings in Wisconsin that have been documented by an author named Linda Godfrey.
Okay.
So lots is going on right now in that realm. It's really fun.
Now, are these kind of documentaries, but with are there reenactments as well?
Yeah, at first, Small Town Monsters kind of shied away from doing any recreations of any sort, although we did contract with some artists that I was aware of through other channels, so that there was at least some visual representation of what was being talked about. But now we've gotten into a place where we are trying to do some recreations, most especially in the last film that just came out called The Flatwoods Monster.
Okay.
Actually, Seth's brother-in-law built a 12-foot tall metal flatwoods creature that smoke came out of and its eyes lit up, and it was really quite a production. I mean, this thing it needed a forklift to put it together because it was all metal. I mean, it was really built in their backyard, and it's this huge monstrosity. And, it really gives you a sense of what some of these films are like, because you see the thing in the film for probably a grand total of 40 seconds.
Okay.
But it represented weeks and weeks of work for him to put that together and to make it viable to see on screen. So it really is eye-opening.
Well, and just, I know this is an audio podcast, but visually I'm sitting here listening to you talk about it, and you're just grinning from ear to ear, man.
Yes.
It must be something you love.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, when I grew up, it was kind of my first exposure to monster movies in general was living in the Detroit area. We were fortunate to have our own horror host on TV. And we, for whatever reason, we were one of the markets that would get some of these first-run Godzilla films, like Godzilla. It went through a couple iterations. It was Godzilla versus the Bionic Monster. Well, the Bionic Man people stepped in and said you can't call it that. So it became Cosmic Monster, became Godzilla versus Mecha Godzilla. I saw that, within a year of seeing Star Wars in theaters. I was seeing that in theaters with my dad. And then Godzilla on Monster Island, which is the one where you have the Godzilla that is a stationary figure. It's supposed to be this kids' land place, and Gigan and King Ghidorah show up. That was first run for me.
Wow.
So it was just a magical time to be a kid, because I was watching Mighty Joe Young and Ultraman on television.
I love Ultraman
in the Detroit
so much.
area. Yeah. And then seeing those films in the theater, I mean, it sort of set the template for me for everything else I would ever do in terms of genre work and so forth. And then, of course, Bigfoot and stuff. Bigfoot and Wild Boy was sort of my exposure to Bigfoot.
Wow.
And I saw that on the Sid and Marty Krofft Saturday morning, so I went to the library and started researching Bigfoot. And there was a wave of stuff to get into at that time. And of course then, to come here to Monster Bash and to meet Stan Gordon, who I've heard about for years and years, and then to find out he loves talking to people about Bigfoot and UFOs and all the rest of that.
Right.
This is just a great place to be.
You mentioned the Godzilla films, and that's how I discovered you guys, was through the Kaiju Cast. I think he mentioned you guys, Kyle's a friend, and I think he mentioned you guys, and then I hopped over and started listening to you guys and your coverage of G-Fest, and your son's interview with Victoria Price, who's one of my favorite ladies. It's just, so that's how I found you guys. So I'm glad you brought up Godzilla, because I wanted to, because I love me some Godzilla, man. So right on, right on. So we have a game that we play on Monster Kid Radio called the Classic Five. We've got a bunch of cards here, a bunch of questions about classic monster movies. Yeah. No wrong answers. What do you think? You want to play?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, card number one. What movie do you prefer, Tarantula or The Deadly Mantis?
I will say Deadly Mantis.
Really?
Yes.
I've gotten so many Deadly Mantis answers. I'm really surprised because Tarantula's so great.
Tarantula is awesome. I think I enjoy Deadly Mantis because it doesn't take itself really seriously. That's one of the things that I enjoy about it, is there's that whole subplot, with the military people are so goofy in that movie. I love that. And that's one that I've seen at G-Fest on the big screen in the Pickwick Theater. I find myself having a soft spot for those films that I've gotten to see in the way that they were intended to be seen.
Right on, man.
Yeah.
Card number two. What is your favorite classic monster movie sequel?
Wow. I would have to say Revenge of the Creature.
My man. My man.
I mean, that's the first one that pops into my head. I love those. I love the trilogy.
So good.
Any of those. And the fact that I found out just this week before the show that they're all coming out on Blu-ray.
I know, right?
Yeah. So I'm psyched.
Yeah.
I'm psyched for that.
Yeah, Creature's my favorite film. So, anytime somebody makes, you win,
One of my favorite scenes of all time comes in that film where the creature whips that guy against the tree. Do you know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
I just love that. I can't explain it, but it's one of my favorite scenes ever.
All right, card number three. Son of Kong or Son of Godzilla?
Oh. That's like asking to choose between kids, you know what I mean? Son of Godzilla.
Yeah?
Yeah, it'd have to be Son of Godzilla. A lot of people are Minya haters, and I am not one of those people. The actors in that movie are incredible. When you know the stock Toho players, you've got guys like Akira Kubo, who parachutes down to the island, and I can't think of his name right now, but the lead actor in Mothra is also in that film as the lead scientist who's conducting.
I know who you're talking about, but I can't.
Yeah.
The names are
Shame
not.
on
I'm
me
not
for not having that, but I don't know. I think still to this day that the final scene in that, where the freeze bomb works, and it starts to snow, and Godzilla wraps Minya in the hug, and they start to go into hibernation. I mean, I get chills from that. Unrepentantly so. I love that.
That's
but
awesome.
Son of Kong, I think, is vastly overrated.
Overrated?
Underrated.
Underrated. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
thank you for clarifying. It is underrated. I mean, it follows an impossible movie to follow.
Yeah.
But the fact that Robert Armstrong is in it,
right?
Is still
I love Carl Denham.
Up
Yeah.
big time. It's great. If it came out as its own film, you know, like the little white gorilla on the island, I think it would have a lot better reputation.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's got a lot to live up to. You're right.
It is.
Okay. All right. Card number 4. Who's your favorite horror host?
Wow. I would have to say Son of Ghoul because I have met him here.
Okay.
And, you know, he's still available in my area.
Okay.
So that's really cool. You know, for the life of me, I can't remember the horror host from the Detroit area that I grew up watching. So that's a hard one for me to answer.
Okay. Well, Son of Ghoul is cool, though. I mean, that's a good answer.
Son of Ghoul is pretty great.
Final card, final question. Other than Abbott and Costello, what other comedy team should have met some monsters?
I would love to have seen the Bob Hope and Bing Crosby.
Yes!
In like a dedicated Meet the Monsters movie would have been a gas. I mean, it was here at Monster Bash that I saw Bob Hope in, has Ghost in the title.
Ghost Breakers?
Ghost Breakers,
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
And I saw that here. I wasn't that conscious of the film. And, you know, it's like a lot of those 40s ghost movies where, you know, it ends up being the mobster.
Yeah, it's
like
not
that.
really a ghost.
Right.
It's
Noble Johnson's in that, though.
Yeah.
And he's sort of stalking around as a zombie, which is really cool. But I think they would have been a hoot.
it would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Like a Road to movie, you know, Road to Transylvania or something.
Yeah.
That would have been fun, man.
Would have been awesome.
Fun. So where can people find the stuff that you're doing online?
Okay, the big place to go would be smalltownmonsters.com. All the films are on there. If you go on YouTube and search for Small Town Monsters, there's also it's called Case Files.
Okay.
It's like 7 or 8 minute episodes that really give you a sense of what the films are like. If you're not sure if you want to go all in on the documentaries themselves, this is where we put footage of interviews that we've done that for whatever reason didn't make it into the film, but were still really compelling. And it gives you a sense of the visual style and the documentary stories that we want to tell.
Okay.
So I would send people there as well. But it's smalltownmonsters.com, and the podcasts are still out there as well.
Right.
Saswat.podbean.com is the best place to go for that. And monsterlandohio.blogspot.com has some of the stuff that I've written, as well as hosting the podcast still.
When I saw Andy yesterday, he said, you guys aren't done podcasting. There might be something coming. He can't talk about it, he said, but I'd love to have you back in the podosphere if you have the time.
And
I'd love to have you back.
I would love to be back. I really would. It became a passion of mine, and I think that the type of thing that we're looking at doing perhaps would be, rather than focus in on one genre subject, it would be a true catch-all.
Okay.
Just whatever we happen to be in at the moment. And whatever else, whether other form it takes, I don't know where that's going to go. But
well, I wish you the best, man.
Thank you.
And please keep me posted because I loved what you guys were doing, and it's cool to listen like to earlier episodes and the progression and Andy growing up and your guys' relationship. It's just awesome.
Thank you.
You
so much.
don't get a lot of that in genre fandom, at least out there like that. So it meant a lot to me. I like the show a lot. So.
That means a lot. Thank you for that. And it's a real thrill to be talking to you right now, honestly, because what I love shows like Monster Bash and what Monster Kid Radio does is it puts you onto things that you haven't heard of before. Like Return of the Vampire, I owe that to your show.
Oh, yeah?
Getting interested in actually getting my hands on a copy and seeing that movie. And I'm so glad that I did.
Oh, good.
And so keep doing what you're doing, too.
Oh, of course.
Because it not only does it celebrate the movies that a lot of people have seen and enjoyed, but it gives you a sense of there's still things out there from an era that I really like that I haven't really been informed about, and it's just cool to have that back and forth.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, you got it.
She was in one of my absolute most favorite films, and now she's at my favorite convention. Janina Faye, how's Monster Bash treating you?
I'm having a wonderful time. I think this is probably one of the nicest conventions I've been to.
Yeah?
Yeah, everybody's been so friendly and so kind. It's been wonderful.
Is this the first time you've been to Monster Bash?
Yes, it is.
Yeah?
Yeah. In fact, it's only the second time I've been to America.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And people were saying to me, well, why haven't you ever done, you've been in the early Hammers. Well, why have you never been to... And I said, because nobody ever asked me.
Really?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Do they not know who you are? I mean, come on.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Caroline Munro, who's a great friend, she said to me one day, well, you've done conventions in England. Why haven't you done any in America? I said, nobody's ever asked me to go. She said, well, we'll have to sort that out.
I could hear her saying that. I totally hear her saying that.
But she has a lady who looks after her called Jane.
Mhm.
And so she spoke to Jane, and Jane said, oh, really? Well, I must give Janina a ring. And that's how it came about.
So you're going to keep coming back now? If they keep asking you, can you keep coming?
Well, I was saying, I've had such a good time. Obviously, if I was asked, I would come. But it's a long way, and you don't want people to get bored with you, do you?
Well,
I wouldn't want anybody to get bored. It's the same old things. Oh, not that girl again.
Oh, no. So for listeners who don't know, which Hammer films were you involved with?
Right, so the first Hammer film I did was the one that everybody seems to love and think was the best one, was I think you call it The Horror of Dracula.
Right, we can call it Dracula here. We can call it Dracula.
So, and I did that. That was probably the second movie I did. I was 10, 1958.
Wow.
And I did that with Peter Cushing and Melissa Stribling, Michael Gough. So that was my first Hammer movie. And then I was in Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll,
Okay.
Hound of Orlac, and then a lesser-known Hammer movie called Never Take Sweets from a Stranger.
It's one of their suspense ones, right?
Yeah, well, it was Hammer's way of trying to move away from gory horror, and they wanted to do a more dramatic kind of film. So they made this film called, I think you call it here, Never Take Candy from a Stranger.
Mm-hmm.
But it got very limited release because of its content.
Yeah.
But it is a marvellous film, and they've just re-released it on Blu-ray.
Mm-hmm.
And I advise anybody who's a Hammer fan to see it, because it's a really good movie. Got some really good people in it.
Did you prefer appearing in the movies with the contemporary setting or the more gothic fairy tale type films?
I've had fun in both.
Mm-hmm.
I think as a child, you go along with the flow. You go with the flow, and what you're asked to do, you do it. I mean, I was the only later on in life there were certain films that I was asked would I do, and for reasons I didn't want to do them.
Mm-hmm.
But earlier on, being a child, it was let's do some really nice, exciting adventure type things.
Here in the U.S., it was like the studio system. You were under contract and you just kind of did what you did. But I don't know much about the British film industry at that time. Was it a contract thing, or did you have to go and audition every time?
You could have been under contract, but I think that was a bit earlier.
I
think by the time we got to 1958, I wasn't contracted. Everything I did was auditioned, or people knew what I'd done and I was asked to be in. And I think with Hammer, certainly, because I'd done one, I think most people, if you talk to them about Hammer, it was because they knew you.
Mm-hmm.
And they, and if they wanted a child actor, they would call me.
In Dracula, I mean, the other icon of that, obviously, is Christopher Lee. Mm-hmm. But I don't think you had any scenes with him. It was mostly with Mr. Cushing. Did you have any interactions with Lee, and how would you compare it? None at all?
No.
Wow.
I think I saw him once floating around in his black cloak.
Oh, wow.
And now, I don't know whether that was deliberate, because I was only 10 years old. You know what I mean? I thought maybe they thought, we'll just better keep him away, or whether that was just because I didn't have any scenes with him.
Okay.
He wasn't involved with me, so I didn't meet up with him. Because normally what you did was you went to the studio, you got yourself ready, and I had a chaperone, and they would get you ready, and you would appear in your scenes and go home. So, as I say, I don't know whether it was deliberate or not. I only know that when I was doing my scenes with Peter Cushing, there's the crypt is to the right as you look at it, it would have been to the left. But I was never allowed to go over there. He said, when I put you down on the step, you don't want you to be frightened. You just sit there. And and it wasn't until much later on, because in those days, if you were a child, you could, in England, I don't know, here I was surprised that you could. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, we saw these films and we were 6." But if it had an X certificate, you weren't allowed to see them. So I didn't see them until I was sort of 16, 17.
Oh, wow.
Much later, some of them, because in those days there were no videos, there were no DVDs.
Right.
So once the film had been and gone, it had been and gone. And so I had to wait until much later on when the films came out on video and then subsequently on DVDs to actually be able to see them.
You didn't see your own films until you were much older?
No.
What was that like to see a movie that you made, I guess, 10, 15 years ago, or however long it was, for the first time? Did it bring back memories, or did you remember it differently?
Oh, it brought back memories, yeah. But it was like looking at somebody else. It's like looking at somebody else.
Wow.
Because 10, 15 years, now, it's 50 years, 60 years later, I look back and I do actually think she was quite a good little actress, that girl. But it's not looking at myself. I think I would be objective if I looked now and thought, well, you were a bit rubbish. But no, I think, especially things like Never Take Sweets from a Stranger and Day of the Triffids, which I did in 62 with the wonderful Howard Keel.
Yeah.
Yeah, hero worship there.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, oh, yes.
You have a lot of interactions with him?
Most of the ladies of that time loved him from Oklahoma and Seven Brides from Seven Brothers, And he came to England, and I thought, wow, I'm working with an American movie star. This is fantastic. And he was charming. He was really charming, yeah.
You didn't stay in the business?
Yeah, I did.
Oh, you did stay in the business.
Oh, yeah.
And are you currently still doing stuff now?
No. I did, because in those days, I say, when you were under 12, you could do films. Yeah. After 12, you could do theatre and television.
Oh, okay.
So I went on to do television and theatre, and then when I was 15, and I was still at school, and I didn't know what I wanted. I wanted to carry on acting. And I had been in a play called The Miracle Worker about the life of Helen Keller.
Yeah, okay.
Patty Duke played it here in the film. I wanted to do it desperately.
Oh, no.
I didn't get that. Because it was an American film, they used an American artist, obviously. But I was doing that play, and Sir Laurence Olivier came to see me in The Miracle Worker, and he tapped on the door, and he said, you won't know me, he said, but my name is Laurence Olivier, and this is my wife, Vivian Lee. I was very fortunate. And then 4 years later, so I was 12, when I was 15, I got a call from, we have a national theatre in England.
Yeah.
And I had a call from my agent to say, you have to go and audition for Sir Laurence Olivier because he's doing some plays at the National Theatre. And I did an Arthur Miller play called The Crucible.
Okay.
And then I stayed there with him under his wing for 4 years. So that was my sort of growing up in the theatre. And
wow.
We went everywhere. I played his daughter in a film called The Dance of Death, which is now on, I think they say you can get it on Amazon now.
Okay.
As a download. And I went on, and then from then I did other plays and other telly and
wow.
etc. I did Little Women, the classic Little Women.
Wow.
Yeah, I played Amy, the one that stamps her feet, wants to get her own way all the time. That one, yeah.
That's fantastic.
I went on working until I was late 40s, early 50s.
Oh, wow, okay. Has there ever been a desire to try to go back again at this point?
A lot of people say that to me, but I think I was so fortunate that I had the very best of times. Mm-hmm. And I've got children, I've got grandchildren, and it would be difficult.
Okay.
I think had I been offered the things that I thought would be right and stretch me, I would have done. I'd love to be Judi Dench, actually. I'd like to play all the things that she does. Yeah. On the plane over, I was watching her in Victoria and Abdul, and I thought, I'd love to be able to play that. I'd love that part. I was unfortunately never offered things like that. Had I been offered those, I probably would still do it. But I wasn't. So I thought, no, I'll just... That's it. I've had my time, and I've had the best of times.
Well, I appreciate you spending some of your time with me
and
Monster Bash. You were in so many of those Hammer movies and Day of the Triffids. I mean, they're a big part of my own personal mythology. They are so iconic, and you were part of that. So thank you so much.
No, well, I have had a really good time here, and everybody's been so appreciative, and I've enjoyed being here tremendously. So I hope one day I'll come back. Thank you.
One of the big pushes here at Monster Bash has been the Bowery Boys. And we've had a lot of Bowery Boys movies shown. We've had relatives of the Bowery Boys. We've got Leonard Getz here, who is the author of From Broadway to the Bowery. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. I'm having a great time.
Now, what is your connection to the Bowery Boys?
Well, I wrote the book, as you mentioned, From Broadway to the Bowery. I watched them when I was a kid, growing up in the 60s in Queens, and fell in love with these kids just like any other kid in the 60s in New York. And when I graduated college, I said, there's no book on the Bowery Boys, at least there wasn't at that time, and I'm just the one to write it. So that's my connection, just the love of the Bowery Boys. And then when I finally did come out, well, actually before it came out, when I was writing it and when I was researching it, that's when I got in contact with all the sons and the daughters of the Dead End Kids, Gorcey Jr., Brandy Gorcey, spoke with Gabe Dell Jr., Bobby Jordan Jr., Hunts Hall's son, Reverend Gary Hall. I met with him. Billy Haupt didn't have any kids, but I met with his nephew and niece. So it's been a great experience and great connecting with these people. They've always been very cooperative and very happy to see the book come out.
What was the first Bowery Boys movie you saw? Do you know? Do you remember?
Wow, the first one I saw. No, I can't say I remember which one. I can't say I remember which one it was. No.
Have you seen them all at this point?
Oh, yes, I've seen them all. I've seen them all. But the thing is, and I was confused about this too, when I was a kid, I'd see the Bowery Boys on TV, and then one day I'm watching another movie with Leo Gorcey and Hunts Hall, and it doesn't really look like the Bowery Boys, and say, well, these are the East Side Kids. And the question is, well, why are they the Bowery Boys one day and the East Side Kids the next day? And so what is it all about? Well, I guess one reason I wrote the book is to figure it all out. So I finally did. And then I realized, of course, that it all started out with a play. Started out with a play called Dead End, written by Sidney Kingsley, who was a Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright. He wrote the play Dead End. It was on Broadway for 2 years. Started in 1934 to 35. 1936, and then it ran for 2 years on Broadway, and then it went and then toured Boston, Philadelphia, San Francisco, and the White House.
Wow.
In fact, Eleanor Roosevelt, when she saw the play, was very inspired about it and pushed for the Wagner Act, which made sure that depressed areas in New York were clean and healthy. So it had a very social dynamic. That was his point, really. That was really his point. That was Sidney Kingsley's point. So then Samuel Goldwyn, he bought the picture rights. The same kids who were in the play, Leo Gorcey, Hunts Hall, all of them. They went to Hollywood. They were in the movie with Humphrey Bogart, and that movie was up for 4 Academy Awards. Didn't win any, and the kids were so rambunctious that they weren't allowed to attend the Academy Awards.
I've heard stories when they were over at Warner Brothers, they were just terrors.
They were terrors. They were ripping through sets. They ran up phone bills, and they drove cars to Tijuana. Got into a lot of accidents. Got a lot of parking tickets. Not parking tickets, driving tickets, I should say. Driving tickets. Yeah, they weren't the most pleasant, easygoing people to deal with. They were. As you say, they were making use of this time period. They were taking advantage of this time of life and the opportunity that I guess that fame gave them.
Yeah.
I guess we'd all did the same thing, wouldn't we?
So they started as the Dead End Kids.
Exactly.
And then was it Bowery Boys next?
So they started as the Dead End Kids. They made 6 movies with Warner Brothers, and then when those contracts ended. Billy Haupt went to Universal Studios and did Little Tough Guys, and Leo Gorcey went to Monogram Pictures, that's a Public Road studio, and they did the East Side Kids. And so they were the leaders of those 2 groups, and the other kids went back and forth between Little Tough Guys and East Side Kids. Bernard Punsley only did Little Tough Guys, and the others went back and forth. And then those films ran through the mid-40s, and then they ended. And then Hunts Hall and Leo Gorcey got together with a fellow named Jan Grippo, who was a producer, and they created the Bowery Boys.
Okay.
And so they made 48 Barry Boy movies.
Wow.
So altogether made 92 movies, if you count them all, 92 movies over a period of 23 years.
Wow.
And my book covers them all. I wrote reviews of every single one, history of the whole evolution, bios of all the major characters, and somebody actually is coming out with a documentary. I'm not sure when it's coming out, but they interviewed me for the documentary.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that, when that's going to happen. And the book has like 200 pictures and has 5 stars on Amazon.
Well, hey, that's something, man. That's something.
That was a nice thing to see.
Now, because this is Monster Bash, I have to ask, there were like 2, 3 that had like a monster scary component. Which ones were those?
Well, actually, there was actually another one that they didn't show today. There was one called Boys in the City.
Okay.
That also was a creepy movie too, and that was a scary movie. So there's Boys of the City, and then there was Spooks Run Wild, which I had here. Ghosts on the Loose, that also had Bela Lugosi was in both those films, both Ghosts on the Loose and Spooks Run Wild. And the Barry Boys had we did Masterminds here today or this weekend, and we did Barry Boys Meet the Monsters. But there was also some other Ghost Chasers. And Spookbusters, they did
a lot more than just a couple.
So they did a lot more. And when Leo Gorski actually, when he quit the series, they did another, I think it was Ghost Chasers with Stanley Clemens took Leo Gorski's place. They did another scary movie with after Gorski left. So they must have done. If you ask me how many did we? Like 2, 3 Psych Kids, 3, 4, 5. So maybe we're talking about maybe 7 altogether.
Wow.
Over the course of. Between East Side Kids and Barry Boys, I can't think of any. I can't think of any little tough guy films that were scary, or it had to do with monsters. I don't think so. It was those.
So I want to review the name of the book again, so people can find it. From Broadway to the Bowery. It's by Leonard Getz. The last name is spelled Getz. I will make sure there's a link to the Amazon. I suppose is the best place to pick it up, right?
You can get it on Amazon. You can also email me.
Okay.
At lengetz@yahoo.com.
Okay.
Or you can do it over PayPal, and I can give you an autographed copy.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So that would be that little incentive to do it that way.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for doing this. Good luck with the book.
Well, thank you very much.
I wish you the best.
And thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
This is the man who has continued the legacy of Scary Monsters magazine. He is a Rondo Award winner this year. He won the award for Best Magazine. Don Smeraldi. How you doing, sir?
Good. Hi, Derek. Glad to be here.
What do you think of the show so far, man?
Oh, it's great. I mean, there's a reason why Ron and his team have won Best Convention with the Rondo Awards for so many years. You know, so it's a testament just to how the family atmosphere. There's no other show like it. Yeah, there may be more people like at a San Diego Comic-Con, hundreds of thousands of people, but there's a lot lost in that. And Ron really knows how to put on everything professionally, and just the movie selection, and it's classic horror all the way.
That's what we thrive on, man. That's our thing. You go to Comic-Con or any other convention, and you're hard pressed to find, a lot of classic stuff. And coming here, it's like coming home.
Absolutely. Especially, I've been to San Diego Comic-Con so many times because I live in that area. And, you're really hard-pressed to find any classic Monsters stuff there. Mm-hmm. There really isn't. Yeah, it's traditional superhero comics, but it's mostly pop culture and all the current movies that they stress there now.
How long have you been coming to Monster Bash?
This is my third one, I believe. I went to the Frankenstein Festival, movie festival in Canton. So that was really good because, it was close to home as well. So a lot of people have been going to Monster Bash every single year. So, there's definitely family feeling for them. So I'm starting to ease into that. I'm kind of an outsider still in a way. Dennis Druck-Tennis has kind of been a legend with Scary Monsters for so many years, but we're doing our best to keep it going.
Yeah, and I told you in there earlier when I didn't have the microphone with me, Scary Monsters was great. And you've taken that and made it like the greatest. I mean, nothing against Dennis, but the magazine has evolved with you guys taking over. How did that happen? I know we talked briefly in there, but I want to hear it for the listeners. How did you get involved with taking over Scary Monsters?
It's interesting. We advertised, and I can't quite remember which issue it was of Scary Monsters, but we knew Dennis business-wise for quite some time. I want to say it was maybe in the mid-'60s or so of his issues that we advertised. So over time, through the grapevine, you have some of the same customers and fans. And we were talking to some people on the phone and on email that Dennis was considering retiring, ending with 100. For the last several issues, he was on his onward to 100. That was his big goal, similar to how Forey Ackerman did that kind of thing. And so when we heard about that, I knew I was going to be retiring soon from the Postal Service after 34 years. So I said to him on email, I just said, hey, we might be interested. I've always in the back of my mind wanted to do a monster magazine of some type. I never thought I would. And he said, well, I'm not really quite ready. I'm kind of not really certain I'm going to end this thing, So a couple months later, I guess it was, he wrote back and he said, I never really considered you guys as even a potential couple to take it over, me and my wife, Vicky. So sure enough, one thing led to another, a lot of conversation back and forth. I even kind of decided maybe not to do it because our older son, Caleb, we were sitting around the computer and we watched Dennis do his Rondo acceptance speech, and he's playing his guitar and all this, and my son turns to me, he says, this is his baby. How can you really keep that going in the same way he did? And, we're looking at each other and we're thinking, he's right. So I wrote back to Dennis and I said, I don't think we can do this, But he convinced me that, he felt our hearts were in the right place, and here we are. And that was January of 2016 or so when his last issue came out. And we were scrambling. We wanted to keep the same schedule. We missed doing Monster Memories because that's usually in March. So our first issue was 101. And we've been going on from there. We're working on 110 right now, our fall issue.
Mm-hmm. Was this your first foray into publishing?
Yes. My wife and I, we met in Washington, D.C. We worked at Postal Service headquarters there. She came from Boston. I came from Cleveland. We met there. And I was a writer for them for employee publications and then annual reports. And she was, still is, obviously, a graphic designer. And so we worked together hand in hand on publications there. So it was kind of a natural thing. We didn't ever do one on our own, of course, but here we are. So,
what's been the best thing you've experienced or seen so far here at the Bash?
Wow. I really enjoyed the Bash Boys band because
that was fun.
There's so many different things I'd like to see as a fan and hear. But you can't do it necessarily when you're a vendor, which is fine. You can get away certain times. I really enjoyed Victoria Price's talk. It was just so, she's so articulate and just very smooth in what she's talking about. No hesitation at all. You could just tell she loves her dad so much. And it was really kind of a breathtaking moment there. And all the movies and everything, this is the only time I probably stay up till 2:30 and then get up early the next day, like for several days in a row, but it's all worth it.
Well, we have a game that we play on the Monster Kid Radio podcast. It's called the Classic Five. We've got a deck of cards here, a whole bunch of different questions about monster movies. There are no wrong answers. Ready to play the Classic Five, Don?
Yes.
All right, card number 1. Which movie do you prefer? The Vampire Lovers, Lust for a Vampire, or Twins of Evil?
Wow. Probably the first one.
Vampire Lovers.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Ingrid Pitt, yes, that's
okay. My friend Dominique Lamzes, who's the person who made those tinglers you've been seeing around.
Oh, okay.
She loves Dominique. One of these movies and dislikes another one quite strongly. So I wanted to make sure it was the right one. Because I have to deal with it later after you've gone back to your table.
That's funny. Okay. All right.
All right, card number 2. What other monster should Abbott and Costello have met in the movies?
It's probably a pretty common answer, but I'm thinking Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yeah. And they did it on TV briefly.
Yes.
Real briefly.
Actually, I just discovered that because I didn't realize it, but Jim Ivers, one of our regular writers, he's doing a history of horror on television.
Oh, wow.
Comprehensive. Okay. Part 1 is in 109 right now. And then we may even have to stretch it out to part 3 because it's so extensive. But he mentions that in there, and I never knew about that.
Oh, wow.
And you can buy it on DVD. It's a short
It's real
clip.
short.
Right.
Yeah. But it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. And I think that was the first appearance. I think it was pre-film. I think it was like kind of promoting the movie. So
okay. That makes sense.
But listeners, don't hold me to it. All right. Card number 3. Which movie do you prefer? Tarantula or Them?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I would say Tarantula only because I've seen it more often, and just that guy in the desert in the initial scene there was so scary to me as a kid, you know, with the deformed face there, and I can't even think of his name now, but Leo G. Carroll. He'd been in so many other movies I'd seen that I just kind of connected with him in a little way there. But Them deserves its accolades over the years.
It's a classic. Well, Tarantula's got John Agar, so that's it for me.
That's true too.
Yeah. All right, card number 4. This is actually from our Monster Bash exclusive expansion of the game. What classic monster movie would you show as part of a double feature with King Kong?
Well, Mighty Joe Young is kind of a natural, but if you're going away from the ape type thing, wow. I guess the original Godzilla. I mean, you can always pair those two up. You know, King of the Monsters.
Yeah.
With Raymond Burr. I don't know.
Well, that'd be fun. And then maybe cap it off with a King Kong, versus Godzilla at the end.
Right, exactly.
Okay, final card, final question. What classic monster movie that never had a sequel really should have had one?
Oh, I was going to say War of the Worlds, but I don't even know how you'd have a sequel for that.
Well, they did that follow-up TV series like in the 80s, didn't they?
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, man, I can't even think. Well, I suppose if you really wanted one, because there's never really been a true one, would be the original Dracula with, Bela Lugosi.
Oh, have him come back again?
Yeah. There was Return of the Vampire, and there's all those different movies, but it would have been interesting to see him again.
It would have been interesting to see him do more at Universal, period, because it's Lugosi, and yeah. Well, that was the Classic 5, man. How do you feel?
Good.
All right, you won. No, that was fun. No, I love doing this with people, and I love that people are taking time away from their vendors' tables to come over to me and hang out with me at my table, because I'm also not getting around as much as I'd like because I'm here. So, Don, thank you for doing this, and thank you for everything you do with Scary Monsters. What can people look forward to either in the newest issue or what's coming up down the line?
Well, we're going to do a first for Scary Monsters in that we're really going to emphasize Halloween in our fall issue every year.
Okay.
So it's going to be our first annual kind of Halloween special, if you could call it that. And then we're going to our regular writer, Dr. Mark Glassy. Everybody's familiar with his work where he looks at the science behind all the traditional classic movies. But he's going to be talking about a major exhibit that's coming up. He works with the University of California at Riverside.
Okay.
He's a consultant with them because they have a great science fiction museum there. And there's going to be a big announcement, and it's going to be I don't even know how much I can talk about it, but
we don't want to.
It's going to be a great exhibit.
Okay.
And it's a lot of his own models, his own first edition books, and because he's got an incredible collection. And Dennis has covered his collection. I think he called it the collection in a few of his issues. I know it was in, I think, 100. And so that's coming up in the fall. The cover's going to be Night of the Living Dead, 50th anniversary. We couldn't let this year go by without honoring George Romero's classic there. And that's what's coming.
So people can find you online. Do you have scarymonsters.com?
It's scarymonstersmagazine.com.
That's it.
Or mymoviemonsters.com.
Okay.
That's our original collectibles business, but it's the same website. So
sounds good. Don, thanks again, man.
Thank you, and thank you for Monster Kid Radio.
Thanks. So you might know him as Dr. Bob Tesla, the horror host. You might know him as Bob Gilbert. I know him as a guy that knew Christopher R. Mims, so by proxy, we're friends. How you doing, man?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
Good. The show's almost over. The bash is coming to an end.
Yes.
You've been here all 3 days.
Oh, yeah. 4 days.
4 days. Well, you got here Thursday. Okay. Fine. So did I. What's the best thing you've seen? What's the best things that's happened?
Oh, man. Seeing Curse of the Demon last night, I've actually never seen it.
Oh, wow.
So I was very happy getting to see it. That was very cool. Also, I never had a chance to see Day of the Triffids before. And so I really like seeing Day of the Triffids. But I think the thing that shocked me the most is, here we had, one of the stars of it in there. But that wasn't what got me. Was when the Doctor's granddaughter showed up from Doctor Who. I was like, oh my God, it's Susan. So, and that just blew me away because I'd never seen Carol Ann Ford in anything else.
Oh, okay.
And, it's like she's got that distinctive look, that nose, the dark hair. I was just like, that's Susan. So I hurried up, grabbed the phone, go, IMDb, is it? Yes, it is. So, yeah. So I'd say Day of the Triffids and Curse of the Demon were really cool. So that's probably my favorite so far.
So far, it's almost over, man.
Yeah, but, it keeps going.
It does keep going. How many times have you come to the bash?
Oh, man. Since about 2009. So I think we missed 1 year because they moved it to July for 1 year. So like 8 years. And, of course, my wife has been going long since before she knew me.
No. So Monster Bash was your first love.
Oh, yeah.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah, her thing, she'd been going to the Monster Bash long since before she knew me. My big thing that I went to that she didn't know about was the 24-hour sci-fi marathon in Columbus, Ohio. I'd been going to that since 1992.
Wow.
And that's one of those, it's like, it's still a love of these old classic movies and all that, but from a very different experience. This one, it's a convention, you're meeting the guests, the 24-hour sci-fi marathon. Yeah, sometimes they get in guests and all that, but it's more of an endurance kind of thing. Can you make it through 24 hours of good movies, bad movies, new and old movies? And it's like, we try. I will admit, I'm older now, I don't try as hard as I used to. Now I'll take, all right, that's a movie I'll sleep through.
There's something as you get older that sleep suddenly sounds like a good idea every once in a while, and I don't know how that happened.
Well, it's probably just, I'll catch that later.
So I mentioned Mim earlier.
Yeah.
What is your relationship with Christopher R. Mim?
Well, actually, it started at the Monster Bash.
Yeah?
Yeah. I think it was my first bash, which was in Butler. And I was there and I was walking through the vendor room, and you had this guy who had a movie playing. I think it was Cave Women on Mars playing on his thing. And I'm looking at it and I was like, oh, he's making new, old, good, bad movies. Okay, I get it. Yeah. And, I know a lot of people compare things to like Lost Skeleton of Cadavra. And the first couple of Mim movies are kind of like in the Lost Skeleton of Cadavra vein. But by that point, he was going on to more straight homage movies. And I liked that better because the problem with Lost Skeleton of Cadavra is it's very wink, wink, nudge, nudge, get the joke. And it's like, yeah, you don't have to beat me over the head with it. Whereas by Cave Women and Destination Outer Space and all that, it's like, no, he's trying to do an old movie the way it was done, same kind. And it's like, all right, I enjoy this. I like this. It's like getting a treasure trove of the old movies that you hadn't seen before. And, so I signed up for his list, and it's like, okay, cool. So I'd get his newsletter. And a few years later, when I started looking into becoming a horror host, the theater I was at had lost their horror host. He'd gone on to a different theater. And I was like, oh, well, I know this guy that would probably let us show his movies. And so I contacted Chris, and Chris was like, yeah, you have my permission to show my movies. Go for it. And boom. So he started us off. Our first 6 shows were all his movies. That was all he had at that point. So 6 movies, boom, and he gave us a good start because it was the type of movie I wanted to show, something you could bring all ages to and enjoy. Not something. There was a grindhouse kind of thing going on also in Columbus at the time, and that's not what I wanted to show. Grindhouse, yes, there are people who are fans of it, but there's also a lot of people who are turned off by it. I wanted something that, you could go watch if you were a teenager. You could go watch if you were a 40-year-old. You could go watch if you were a family, and that was this, So he really helped set the tone of what I wanted to show. And I became the official horror host of St. Euphoria's over the years, and we've helped him out on different things. We've done the live snark track on 2 of his movies, which I don't know that we'll be doing any more on those, because after Cave Women on Mars, the movies start getting a little more serious, and you don't have the pauses that you can time the jokes into, like when Professor Jackson is talking.
They're brutal. Those pauses are brutal.
Well, but they're great for making jokes.
Oh, sure.
I think one of the big jokes we had for It Came From Another World is the big "Let's Go" when he's Good Day, when he's saying that to the canoe cops as they're heading off after finding Frank, and it's just such a long pause. So we were able to put like 4 jokes in there all while we're waiting, including guys, I think the professor's locked up. Can you wiggle the plug? Control Alt Delete? Something, So those 2 movies will work for Snark Tracks. It's like, I know Chris loved what we did, and he's talking about we should do it for Terror from Beneath the Earth. I just don't know. Terror is such a more serious movie.
Yeah.
So, and we've also done things like we're the only people who he's let do additional scenes for his movies. We did the additional scenes for House of Ghosts. We did additional scenes for Giant Spider. I've been in 2 of his movies, which, it's a lot of fun. It's always nice to see yourself up on the big screen. And we had, a few years back, we did the 24-hour Christopher R. Mim Marathon, the Mimathon. And that was really cool. We showed them in universe order. This was before this was the year where Skeeto came out, but it hadn't came out yet. So we actually showed like a sneak preview of that at the Mimathon. And it started with, Monster Phantom Lake and all that, but then you have the space movies get pulled out and put toward the end of that. So I actually think it helped on the viewing, because what we did was late night double feature. We split it and put them where they belong in the time frame. And a lot of people don't like Fiend from Beyond Space.
I love it.
Well, I'm not fighting you on it.
I love it. You take that back. No, I love it.
Yeah, but a lot of people think it's the weaker of the 2 in late night double feature. And
it's just different.
Yeah, but when I was watching it as part of that, where it's in with the rest of the space movies, it's like, oh no, this is better. This feels better. And I told him that afterwards, and he was like, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, and it is also kind of interesting because you have that kind of a disconnect between the 2, and it's like, okay, when you go into space, you aren't going back and forth in time, and you just stay there. Of course, then he screwed us over with Danny Johnson. It's like, because
the
flashbacks and all that. It's like, but no, Danny Johnson's a great film. It's a great kids film. You should watch it every Christmas.
So I would love to get your partner, your lovely wife, your the person you're a sidekick for, on as well. So
yes,
let's bring her on.
All right, here we go.
Melanie.
Hi, Derek.
How you doing?
Round, but okay.
So your character with the Bob Tesla verse.
Yes.
Is Nurse Ferratu?
Nurse Ferratu.
What is a Nurse Ferratu's background?
The nurse is actually kind of still looking for a background. She originally came to the show as an amnesiac that was hypnotized by our villain, Rick Edison, to spy on Dr. Bob. She has since become an ally, and she's putting up with Rick for now, but yeah, she's not a big fan of him still. There's some unending hatred for what has happened. But she's starting to get her memory back, so the nurse is actually off the show, off looking for herself and looking for what she presumes might be her husband, because she does wear a wedding band. So we've never explored who he is. We've got a couple ideas of where we might go with it. But
well, we know who the nurse hopes she is.
Oh,
or
yes.
He is, excuse
oh,
me.
yes. She's very hopeful it's Michael Kaiser. She absolutely loves Michael, which has probably caused Michael some pain in the past, the poor guy.
Now, were you with the show from the beginning?
I made my appearance in the second episode.
Okay.
First episode, I was just, helping out where I could, but we decided we needed some gags and we needed someone walking front end. So the first episode, we decided to do the old William Castle nurse out front, sign this petition in case the film scares you to death. We're not responsible.
Nice.
And that's where the character started.
Okay.
And we've just kind of kept growing her personality and what she's going to do on the show since then. But, definitely need a front-end personality to go, this is where you go. And, hey, you want these movies. And these adorable little plushy brains. They're so cute. And our wonderful game, now that we've got that as well, So it's like, need someone up front to handle that
to sell stuff.
Yes. And, if you've ever seen a picture of it, she's got the cleavage, so people are willing to come and talk to her for a few minutes.
So what's the best thing you've seen or done at the Bash?
Ooh, for this year? Seeing the people I get to see only once a year is great. Seeing Zach's performance, I always say, is one of the best parts of the Bash. If I could just kidnap Zach, bring him home, and have him perform locally every week, I'd be thrilled.
So I didn't get to see it, but Zach does an Edgar Allan Poe one-man show thing?
Yeah, he does normally it's a one-man show. He does a lot of Poe this year. He also did a couple scenes from Frankenstein.
Oh, okay.
He did The Pit and the Pendulum, which he had done before, and it's, one person, no microphone, little bit of props, and him just going for it. Mm-hmm. Completely memorized. It's kind of breathtaking and mesmerizing. I do not miss seeing Zach when he's here because it's just not like anything I see anywhere else.
So it's Zach Zito is his name.
Zach Zito, yes.
So I wonder, does that speak to you guys? Because a lot of your horror hosting isn't like on TV or YouTube, but you did a lot of live horror hosting. So is there a theatricality connection there for you?
It could be. I think that's probably true. I saw Zach long before we gotten into this, but it's just like that live edge is something I love, and I think that's part of the reason I do enjoy the live shows. I like my scripts, but that's not something Bob believes in necessarily. He's a fan of commedia dell'arte in his performing style, which is loose script with lots of improv.
Fair enough. Well, I know you listen to the show, so you know what the Classic 5 is.
Oh, yes.
You want to play?
All right.
All right, and then we'll swap out.
It's going to be painful, isn't it?
I don't think so. So this comes from the new Monster Bash exclusive expansion deck. This question here. What has been your favorite Monster Bash purchase?
Ooh.
Ever.
Many, many years ago, and I don't know where it is. It's somewhere in my house. Someone had made homemade teddy bears that were Frankenstein and a Wolfman with claws. And it's like, they are just so adorable. It's like, oh, I need to snuggle these. Except I gotta remember to watch the claws on the werewolf. And it's like, that is like most stuff I can't tell you if I got at the Bash or just another DVD sale, but that one was, awesome. That was a fun one.
Awesome. All right, card number 2. I believe this is from the Universal deck. So, which Edward Van Sloan do you prefer? Dracula's Van Helsing, Frankenstein's Dr. Waldman, or The Mummy's Dr. Mueller?
Though I prefer the film Dracula, I think he's a more interesting character in The Mummy. Actually.
I love him in The Mummy. I love him so much in The Mummy. Because he's so different than that kind of, he doesn't know everything. There's always a little bit I love it.
He's still an expert, but this is way beyond his pay grade.
Right? Yeah, no, that's cool. I like that a lot. All right, card number 3. Which character from a classic monster movie would you want as an action figure?
I gotta say, I've got a doll of it, but I would love a Renfield. That's my thing. I love Renfield. And it's like I got the doll one year for Christmas, and I carried it throughout the house. It's like, Mom's like, I spent hundreds of dollars on other stuff. You could touch a different toy. I'm like, Renfield.
Card number 4. Willis O'Brien or Ray Harryhausen?
I gotta go Harryhausen for one big reason. Only person in monster movies ever gave me nightmares.
Really?
I saw Jason the Argonauts probably around 10 years old, and didn't think anything of it. Not the first time I'd seen Harryhausen, but I woke up in the middle of the night, sweating, sitting up in bed from those skeletons, that army of skeletons.
Wow.
Creeped me the heck out as a kid.
Okay.
It's like I actually got to meet him one year, and I was like, I had to tell him. It's like, you're the only one. I've watched Dracula, I've watched Freddy, none of them affect me. Yours stick with you forever.
Wow.
So, for that alone, I gotta go with Harryhausen.
So, final card. It's also another Universal card. Ooh. Which movie do you prefer? The Monolith Monsters or Monster on the Campus? And I feel like you're somebody I could probably ask this of. I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with both those films.
I think I'd go with the Monolith Monster.
Okay.
It'd be close, but I think that one's a little more enjoyable. It's kind of...
It's scarier, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's not a humanoid monster. It's rocks. You get them wet and they come at you. It's awesome.
Yeah, it's not one of those monsters you see every day.
Well, it's a classic 5. How do you feel?
Pretty good. I don't think I died.
You win. I'd love to play with Dr. Bob as well if you're up for it, dude.
You want Dr. Bob or you want Bob?
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yes, Dr. Bob has a slightly different personality on that one. So.
No, I'm sure. So here's another Monster Bash exclusive card for you, starting at the top. Card number 1. Who was the most recent celebrity you saw at Monster Bash?
It'd be Victoria Price.
Ain't she great?
Oh yeah. Her whole panel is just so uplifting, and it's so nice about what she says about her father, Vincent. In fact, we even referenced it this morning because she said how Vincent always kept disposable forks in his pocket, and my wife was like, "Oh, I've got spoons," and this morning because she pulled them out of nowhere so that we could have cereal, and I'm just like, "You're gonna turn into Vincent Price."
I don't know if that's is a problem.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
All right, card number 2. What's your favorite Ed Wood film?
I know it's the popular one and all that, but I gotta go at Plan 9 just because he was able to almost pull off an ambitious movie.
Almost. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Card number 3. What classic monster movie would you like to see as an animated remake?
Oh man. Well, of course, I love Godzilla, but they've got the animated stuff that they're doing right now, so I won't count that one. You know what might be a good animated one? And this is the only movie that's ever scared me. The Blob. Because you could do some interesting work with the animation.
Yeah. Huh. It's a good one.
Yeah.
I can see that. Let's see, was that 3? So here's 4. What prop from a classic monster movie would you like to own?
Ooh. Okay, where do you make the cutoff on classic?
Your call.
Okay. If you count 70s, I would go with an Alien from Alien. I love H.R. Giger's work. They're so it's so definitive and so iconic, and I love it. If we're going back further, if we're going like 60s and beyond, I might have to go with an Interocitor from this island Earth.
I still want an Interocitor. I want an Interocitor so bad.
Yeah. Like, who doesn't have an Interocitor, you collective heads of knuckle?
Yes. Final card. I saw this in here and I thought, you know what, I'm not going to be random. I'm just going to make him, this is the one. Who's your favorite mad scientist? See, I figured it was appropriate.
All right, other than Dr. Bob. Well, let's see. Oh man, there's so many good ones. Of course, for Dr. Bob, I borrow a lot from Dr. Forrester from Mystery Science Theater. Frankenstein is always a great one. Man, it's so hard to narrow it down to just one. But I don't know if you'd count him as a mad scientist, but the actual Clayton Forrester from War of the Worlds, I really liked his style. But yeah, he's not really a mad scientist. I think we'd probably have to go classic and go Henry Frankenstein from the original Universal.
Colin Clive?
Oh, yeah. That one, it's just, he's got that manic, when he creates it and he's just like right on the edge of hysteria. It's alive. It's like, oh my God, he is losing it out of sheer joy of what he's just done. And it's like, okay, that's cool.
Right on.
Cool.
So I want people to be able to find you online. You do a pretty unique horror hosting thing now.
Yes.
In VR.
Yes. Altspace VR. We actually, every Friday at 10:30 Eastern Time, we show a part of a movie. We have it split up into about 30-minute segments every week. It's in virtual reality. Altspace VR is the name of the program. And it's not just a VR thing. You can get the 2D app for your computer or your phone, just Altspace VR, and you're just looking around as if it was like a computer, or a computer game kind of thing where you're using a mouse and your buttons to move around. However, if you have Oculus Go, Oculus Rift VR, Gear VR, HTC Vive, all these other things, it's you can download the app and you can look around and actually be immersive in it. But what's great is we've started doing the movies in environments that fit them. Like we just finished up the Alpha Omega Man from Josh Kennedy, and that was in this haunted cemetery and barn with a full moon over the screen. It was really nice. Next, we're going to be showing It Came From Another World with a snark track, and because that one's a comedy, we're going to be doing it in a comedy club. When I do a sci-fi movie for them, it's going to be on a space station with opening and closing doors and observation deck and all that, and including these two buttons that you hit, and out come these people that are in cryogenic refrigeration. So, that just brings a whole nother level to enjoying your movie. And we also have our monthly show. We have 2 monthly shows. We have one that's live in a theater, and that's you get more details on that on our Facebook page, Midnight Monster Movies with Dr. Bob. But we have our second monthly show on the 4th Saturday of every month on YouTube, and that is Wild Eye Reactions, where we react to the best and the worst movies from Wild Eye releasing, which the best are really good. There are some really good movies. They had The Neon Dead, Caesar and Otto. These are all brilliant, beautiful movies. Then you have movies that hurt us and hurt us hard.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about them. It's okay. It's okay.
Yes. So, we're pretty busy.
Sounds good, man. Well, I'll make sure there's links in the show notes to everything. Thanks for taking some time to talk to me, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, man.
Thanks.
And this is the best podcast, period. Hands down.
I'm only saying that because the Bonfire podcast is gone.
Well, yeah. But, hey, that means this was second best.
Wow. Thanks, man. But first, I want to say thank you to Joyce Meadows for spending a few minutes with Monster Kid Radio today.
Oh, this is Monster Kid. Great.
Yep, that's what we do. Thank you for doing this, and thank you for doing the Monster Bash. It's been a treat to have you here.
I know other people have said it, but I'm sure they say it from the heart like I do. This is one of the most wonderful convention shows of this type that I have ever done. Mm-hmm. The people here are just super. They really are. I've had a wonderful time. I mean, people come by, to get a picture, and their stories are wonderful, and it's just been a wonderful experience.
Is this the first bash you've done?
This is the first time I've been here, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Ron called me no, it wasn't Ron, it was, Mark Stadler. He called me last year.
Oh, okay.
So I've been looking forward to it for almost a year.
We've been looking forward to it too. You have been in one of my absolute favorite films with one of my absolute favorite actors. And I want to talk about that for a second, but absolutely. I want to ask you about Brett Halsey first, because I also really enjoy his work. And I don't get to talk to people about Brett Halsey very often because he didn't do a lot of genre films and that sort of thing. But you did do a film with him.
Yes, The Girl Down Lover's Lane. Yeah.
What was your experience like working with him?
We were both young. We had a wonderful director, and we both got kind of a crush on each other.
Uh-oh.
And it was easy to do. Look at that handsome man. And we decided that would help the movie. We just didn't follow anything through. We were very good, Derek. We didn't follow anything. But there was a little spark between us, which worked great because we were falling in love, in the movie.
Right.
But he was very easy to work with. Mm-hmm. He was just a natural. I don't think he had much background as far as training, but he really used well what he did have. You know what he did, Derek? He went to Europe.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's where I know his work from. So a lot of the European cinema that he did, the spy films, the westerns.
I didn't know that until I met him at a memorabilia many years after. And we were talking. It was a Western convention in Virginia. And that's when he told me that he had spent a lot of time in Europe doing Westerns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how I discovered him, actually. I know he did a couple of genre things, but I discovered him through the spaghetti westerns.
That's right.
And I just became a fan. So
look at Clint Eastwood did that. That's
true. That's true.
He did that for a lot of years. Yeah.
But I really liked your chemistry with him in that film. It's interesting to know.
I gave you the secret.
I know. I was going to say, it's interesting to know the secret now because it is a palpable kind of spark that happens throughout the entire film that you're just like, This is. I mean, it was very well done.
Thank you. I
really enjoyed
the
it.
Compliment, Derek.
Now, of course, because it is Monster Kid Radio, I have to talk about John Agar, who is my guy. I lament having never had a chance to meet him.
He was a type of person that was a natural in front of the camera. Mm-hmm. So many of us come from a lot of background work. Mm-hmm. He just doesn't have that. He didn't have that much background as far as preparation as an actor, but he had a wonderful feeling and naturalness in front of the camera. And as you got to know him, you just could understand why. He was a gentle soul. He was a sweetheart. I got to do 2 conventions with him with the brain, and he would sit next to me, and we both signed the same pictures at the same time, and we got to talk a lot. And that's where I got to know him even better than I did in the film, because doing those 2 and spending several days, doing them, and I enjoyed that. And it wasn't too long after that he was gone,
Yeah.
So I really was grateful that I had that time with him again.
So we've talked about what you thought of Brett Halsey, what you think of John Agar. What's your background? How did you come to act?
Well, to make a long story short, I was born in Alberta, Canada, outside of Calgary. Mm-hmm. From both sides of my family as farmers. And my dad and mother wanted to move to the United States. We moved to Montana.
Oh.
Then they moved to Oregon. Then they moved to California. And then my dad wanted to move. My mother says, stop. I love California. You want to move, you go. And that was in Sacramento area of California. And I went to school in Northern California and got into my school plays. Prior to that, I was always, I think the first time I was on stage was a Christmas program. I was 3 years old, and I sang This Little Light of Mine. So I've been on stage ever since I was a little girl.
Oh, wow.
And then I decided to come to LA, and I got an in with the character actors who got me into the Hollywood Studio Club.
Oh, okay.
The famous Hollywood Studio Club.
Mm-hmm.
That was a wonderful place. Too bad it isn't still going. It would be a wonderful place.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in a play. An agent saw me and wanted to represent me. I agreed, and he helped me open the doors.
What part of Oregon, if you don't mind my asking?
Bend.
Bend. I'm from Portland, so that's why I ask, yeah.
Bend, Oregon, when we were there, was nothing but a little sawmill town.
Okay.
And now I understand it's a big resort.
It's a different flavor than where I'm from in Portland, but yeah, I mean
Yeah.
So yeah, I flew all the way out here from Portland. So
that's where we lived.
Right on.
Bend, Oregon.
Yeah, were you a fan of the genre film? Like when you did The Brain from Planet Arrows, when you saw it, what did you think?
I liked it.
Yeah.
I thought we all did such a good job. We were so busy doing it, you don't know how it's going to come out. Mm-hmm. And I loved the special effects. I saw John act like if the brain was entering him and everything and so on. And then after that was done, the special effects interjected into the film with the brain shrinking. So, that was all done in a studio with special effects.
So did you know what it was going to look like that?
Had no idea.
Wow.
No. And something cute. They wouldn't let John and I see the brain until we actually encountered him in our scene.
Oh, okay.
First time I saw it was in the Bronson Canyon. So it was kind of scary. It was easy to scream. John didn't have to scream, but I screamed. And they kept the brain a secret from us, what it looked like.
Right.
And it was pretty big, It's pretty big. And that gave John something to fight with.
Right.
Attack.
And to kind of pound on a little bit.
Yeah. So, he had a wonderful knack for what they call natural talent.
Mm-hmm.
That was John.
Well, I appreciate all that you've done for the convention circuit.
Yeah.
I appreciate you being on Monster Kid Radio. And
Well, I think it's wonderful you have this here for the kids.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've had kids come to the table.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't charge them. We pay. They're supposed to pay for your autograph, but these munchkins come up and they're, and I said it's my gift. I just couldn't charge them.
Oh.
What are you gonna do? Anyway, thank you,
I
Derek,
appreciate
for
it.
having me. I appreciate it.
Have a safe trip home, okay?
Thank you. I always like that wish.
So there's been somebody on my podcaster bingo card for a long time that I've been wanting to check off of having met in person, despite the fact that he once called me a blasphemer on another podcast. Rod Barnett.
In my defense, you were. So don't pretend.
What? So the story is.
Okay. So at that point in your film watching life, you confess to hating all Godzilla. No, not hating all Godzilla. No. You confess to. I can't remember the specifics, but you had seen so few Godzilla films.
I'd never seen any all the way through. I'd seen clips, and that's about it.
That's. I'm thinking blasphemer's a light word for that, but that was really weird because at that point, you'd been doing the zombie podcast for years, and you'd switched over. Had you switched over at that point to doing this? Okay, so to my mind, I thought, how did you avoid it? Where was it? How could it be? So you were calling into the B Movie Cast, and of course,
and you told
that admission meant that I was going to have to call you out on the B Movie Cast as a blasphemer.
You told Vince and Mary and Nick that I was a blasphemer.
Yeah, that's just true.
Because I hadn't watched any Godzilla movies all the way through,
and I felt really good about it for about a week.
Yeah,
justified, righteous in my indignation that you had not seen more Godzilla films, and then you replied on the B Movie Cast, and I thought to myself, I've been too hard on the guy. I mean, if we've all trespassed, we've all made mistakes. It's best to open our bosoms and welcome you into the fold and hand you some DVDs if necessary, just so that you can actually take yourself and place yourself properly within the church of the Big G.
So, fortunately, I didn't have to get into your bosom.
But it's a little hairy there. I wouldn't suggest it. So now at this point, I'm pretty sure you've seen, if not all, at least a fair chunk of the
I've seen them
Godzilla.
all.
You've seen them all at this point?
Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent. Excellent.
I've made up for loss. Yeah, no, I've gone through them all. I've gone through some of them multiple times.
Yeah.
King Kong versus Godzilla was the first one I saw it all the way through at a theatrical print.
Nice.
With Scott Morris. So, yeah. No.
Well, you can't fault the film for the company you keep. So,
Oh, no, it was awesome. It was incredibly cool.
Problem was he was rooting for for King Kong the entire film.
Hey, now.
That was a mistake.
Well, I thought it was the American cut where King Kong wins it.
Don't you wish that
was true?
Insane rumor that I believed until, man, I got to be honest with you, I believed that was probably true until like 2004, 2005.
Yeah.
That had to be crowbarred out of my mind by just reality finally. It's like, no, it's been in too many books. It doesn't exist. That was a lie.
Yep.
It's like, but then again, here's the thing. Thank God the other fanboy rumor about horror films didn't turn out to be true until years later, which was, the Japanese version of Horror of Dracula has a whole lot more footage of the disintegration and all this stuff at the end. And so I poo-pooed that for the longest time. Like most people, I considered that to be less than believable. And it turns out to be true. And you can see it on Blu-ray right now. Yep. So thank God that didn't happen before I finally allowed the myth of the alternate cut of Godzilla and King Kong's battle to be taken away from me, or I'd still be holding on to it.
Yep. All right, let's play the Classic Five. What do you think?
Sure, I'd love to.
Card number one. If you had to colorize one Universal monster movie, which one would it be?
Wow. Actually, not as hard as I thought because it just flashed on it. Because there is some behind-the-scenes color footage, I think it would be fun to see them take what we know of what the actual coloration was on the set of Son of Frankenstein and give that a shot. And not just because Son of Frankenstein is my favorite of the Universal Frankensteins. I just love that movie so much. But because we have definite color footage, not just notes made on scripts or not just notes made in the in the costuming department, but we've got actually something to go on. I think that would be interesting. I feel it would probably end up being like the Ray Harryhausen approved colorized versions of his black and white films, which is, it's nice to see that once, but I'm going to default to the black and whites. That's probably what it would end up being. But I still think it'd be interesting. So
Okay. Card number two. Who else? And this is kind of appropriate considering the Nashi cast that you do. Who else could have or should have played a werewolf?
So are we talking a werewolf at any point in time, or are we talking about the Universal films?
Anytime.
Anytime. This may seem odd, but I'm not the first to say this, at least among my friends. I would have loved to have seen Robert Mitchum take a stab at a role like that.
Oh.
I would have loved it. And of course, the idea immediately comes up as soon as you watch Charles Lawton's film, Night of the Hunter.
Yeah.
Where Mitchum is essentially playing the Frankenstein monster in that, if at certain points. I mean, he's just this inarticulate thing whose driving force is greed. So I would love to have seen sometime in the 50s. I would love to have seen Robert Mitchum take on a role like that. I think he would have been game for it for a long period of his career. And man, how fascinating!
Yeah. Wow. All right. Card number three from the Monster Dash exclusive deck.
Oh.
Who was the last person you've taken a picture with at Monster Bash?
Oh man, hold on, that's rough. Oh, it was Mark Maddox and I. Mark Maddox was doing something cruel to my ear, and I snapped a selfie for proof.
Okay.
And then he grabbed my phone and deleted it because Mark Maddox is a jerk. Don't edit that out, even though it's of course not true.
All right. Well, hey, he always tells me, I want to be on your show. You get a hold of me. I'm like,
oh, yeah,
I want you on the show. And I've been contacting you by Facebook for months, and I never hear back.
He's a great guest.
Well.
He's a great guest, but the problem is that and I run into this with him as well because we started out this year. He said, look, I want to be on the show at least 5 times this year. We haven't done it once because he gets work and he's got a certain deadline, and it's like he's got to make time to get his thoughts together to watch the film and then sit down and carve out 2 hours one evening for the two of us to sit down and talk over Skype. And it can be difficult because his priority is always going to be, I got a paying gig and a deadline versus I love doing this. So keep at it. He will do it, and he's a great guest.
I've had him on once, and I want to have him on again.
Yeah.
All right, card number.
Maddox is great.
Card number. I'll edit that out. Card number 4.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
Mighty Joe Young or King Kong?
Always King Kong.
Always King
Always King Kong. The 33 King Kong is absolutely one of my favorite films. If you ask me my top 10, I can guarantee you no matter what shifts around, there's going to be 3 specific films that are always going to be in it, and King Kong's one of them. There's a good reason it ends up at number 1 on any list when you crowdsource it for monster fans. It's ground zero for a lot of fandom. It's ground zero for a whole genre of film, to be honest. So, yeah.
I firmly believe that with no King Kong, there is no Godzilla.
Oh, no. Yes, yes.
If you look at the connections, King Kong inspired Ray Harryhausen, who made a movie that inspired a Japanese guy.
Yep.
Final card, the original Nosferatu or the original Dracula?
Okay, now I have gone through, I have to back way up to get to the answer. I have gone through different periods of appreciation for Browning's Dracula. I went through that period where I just loved the film because it was Dracula. And then I went through that period of really examining it and realizing that it's the first half hour that I really love and the rest of the film isn't as good to me. And then realizing that maybe not. Maybe there are things there that I love. And then being able to see the Spanish version along, with processing that and going back and forth with that. And the thing is, I never went through that process with Nosferatu. Nosferatu, from the moment I saw it, I just thought was amazing. So, I love both movies. The thing is, I've probably seen that through an accident of videotape ownage. That's not a word. I've seen Nosferatu way more times than I've seen Dracula, simply because for a long period of time I owned a public domain VHS of it in the early 80s. And so I love that movie. So I hate to say this, but it's probably a coin toss, but if I'm going to say which I would prefer overall, I'm probably going to go with the 31 Dracula, but only because of an overfamiliarity with Nosferatu, because I watched it to death once I had that video. That was one of the very first videotapes we had in the house when I was still in 10th or 11th grade, until we built up a much larger videotape collection. And so I watched it a lot. So love them both, but if I've got to pick, I'll go with Browning's film. So.
Okay. So people can find you online at you got a few different podcasts, but I know you for the Nashi Cast.
Yeah.
Which is the Paul Nashi podcast. How often does it come out?
Intermittently. We've only done 2 this year. We've scheduled up another recording here in July. We're going to sit down with our buddy Court Psyops. Okay. We're doing a special on Spanish horror. I've tasked him and Troy to come up with their 3 favorite non-Nashi Spanish horror films, and we're going to discuss our 3 lists.
That's your co-host, Troy Gwynn.
Yeah. Okay. And so what we're going to do there is, I fear there's going to be a fair amount of crossover there because, come on, I suspect Horror Express is going to be on all 3 of these lists. I narrowed it down by saying, no, non-Nashi. But we're going to do that in July, and I think that'll be fun. I have the feeling halfway through the show I'm going to wish I'd said 5 instead of 3 because we're going to end up talking a whole lot about probably 2 films, but because they stand out. We've got that scheduled. We've got a couple of more for the Nash Cast. We've got a couple more Spanish horror films on the boil. We've got Candle for the Devil we're going to do, and a couple of others that we're going to do as the year goes on. It's no secret that we've kind of tapped out on covering the Nashi films unless we fold back in on ourselves and start talking about them, again, because we've done a total of 55 of them. And until someone fan subs some of the more that were never dubbed into English, we're kind of at a standstill on that. But the Nashi Cast will stay alive because we'll never work our way through all the Spanish horror films that don't involve Nashi necessarily. And the joy of that is being able to have guests come on and do a theme thing like, hey, your 3 favorite non-Nashis. So in the future, I know we don't have the ability to schedule this right now, but I'm going to eventually ask you to come on to do a similar thing to that, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask, I haven't even put this to Troy yet, but what I have in mind, I've got the notes at home, is the idea would be asking you your 3 favorite werewolf films, and it wouldn't be Nashi specific in any way, but just to talk about werewolf films in general, and then back our way into talking about the differences in how Naschy approached the werewolf film and how others did. And I keep discovering new things. I just recently saw this 1960s Mexican werewolf film called La Loba. And I got to tell you, in that, the only way to kill a werewolf is with an ivory-bladed knife. Never heard of this before in my life. But that's one of the joys of this. It's a pretty good little film, too. And so one of the things about just talking about 3 favorite werewolf films, judge it however you want. That's probably what I'll ask. And I may ask for 5 because you get into that thing where, okay, so Howling, American Werewolf in London, because there are certain things that kind of rise to the top. But that's how we'll continue the show, is finding ways to talk about the subject at an angle from a different perspective. So I will eventually be bugging you.
I love the idea. Well, I want to have you back on because we have the second Antonio Margheriti Gamma 1 movie to talk about, and then this August, part of Edgar August Poe, Castle of Blood.
Which is such a great film. Such a great
also
film. Also,
Antonio Margheriti. So
love Antonio Margheriti. He was always, always a distant second to Mario Bava, but even a distant second to Mario Bava is at least worth talking about. So.
Sure. And you've got the Bloody Pit of Rod and your website. I'll make sure there's links in the show notes to everything. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up before you call me a blasphemer for having not watched very many, if any, Paul Naschy films. Actually, I take that back. I have seen Horror Rises from the Tomb.
Yes, and Horror Rises from the Tomb is a truly fantastic Spanish horror film.
I haven't seen any of his werewolf movies.
Real? Oh, but no, you're not a blasphemer for that. You have so much joy in front of you. Because... Don't get me wrong. You'll love some and think others are just freaking weird. I dare you. There's a part of me that wants you to have the experience that so many American viewers of these things did, which was go watch Fury of the Wolfman first because it fell into public domain, and therefore it was the easiest to see for a very long time. And it is a complete disaster. A complete disaster. The guy who directed it was a drunk.
Oh.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Naschy lost control of it completely from the word go. So there's like some of what he wanted to get done in that movie, and then there's just insane stuff. They like tore scenes out of his first werewolf film and just randomly inserted it into Fury of the Wolfman. It is well worth seeing because it's the worst one you're going to see.
So I would have to go up from there.
There's no way to go anywhere but up from that one. But like I say, most Americans saw that one first. So...
Fair enough, Rod. Thanks for doing this. Finally made it happen on a Sunday while everybody's starting to shut down.
We've been so busy. There's too much going on always.
Always is. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
So I'm sitting here with one of my absolute favorite people, and I'm not just saying that because she's here, Victoria Price. I keep running into you. I love talking with you. How you doing?
I'm good. It's been a fun con, huh?
Now, this is the second time you've done Monster Bash?
Third.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, what's been your favorite part so far this weekend? It's almost over, so.
The people.
Yeah.
It's just so great talking to everybody. Everybody is so sweet, and hearing their stories about my dad and just hearing their stories in general. It's been so much fun.
I was just talking with Brad Braddock, an author here, who said he told you the story about his mother running into him on an airplane and sitting down, and the stories that you were telling. The man, I know we talk about him as this horror actor and icon, but hearing those stories, hearing your stories, just brings him to life as a person, and the love of just people and learning and connecting. It really comes through, and I appreciate that you do that with what you're doing. I mean, you've done it to me, and man, I can't thank you enough. It's been amazing.
Thank you. I just love the opportunity. Here's this person I love so much, and I get to share him with other people who love him. It's a total gift. When it comes to these kinds of conventions, obviously, it's the monster thing, it's the genre thing. Over the years, you've kind of embraced the monster stuff. Are there any particular films by your father that you still, maybe not going to watch that one just yet? Or have you seen them all now? I haven't seen them all. Okay. I'm sorry to say. I have a hard time with Witchfinder General. He's so mean and it's so violent. That's a tough one for me. We were talking about that earlier, that it's all the guys seem to really like it. All the women are like, oh, he does some pretty bad things to women in that one. Yeah, it's not good. It's a testament to his acting, though, because he becomes this character that's like the anti-Vincent Price. Totally. And he was miserable during the making of that movie. So miserable. I've heard that there were, I wouldn't say conflicts, but it was a difficult shoot and a young director and some difficulties there. So
But I mean, he pulled it off. Professional.
Yes. No, he was always a professional. And he even had the grace to say to the director after he saw the movie, I understand what you were trying to do. And thank you. I wish you had been able to do it a little differently. But he was a young man and obviously, unfortunately, a troubled young man.
That he was. So of the films then, do you have a particular favorite when it comes to the monster movies? Or the genre films? Because they're not all monsters per se.
You know, I've come to actually love quite a few of them. I like Dr. Phibes, Theater of Blood, House on Haunted Hill, The Tingler. I've come to really enjoy them.
I love the clip from Theater of Blood that you played yesterday. Hi, I'm Butch.
Yes.
It's like, that's I find that clip on YouTube and I send it to my friends just kind of randomly every once in a while just to get a reaction out of them. I had a chance to see that in the theater a couple of years ago in Portland. They showed it at the Art Museum.
Oh, fun.
And I had never seen it before.
Oh, you're kidding.
And I had heard you talk about how it was, an opportunity for him to get back at his, whatever.
Right.
And man, it was so good.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it, except for the stuff with the dogs. I was like, did he really have to do that to the dogs?
The poodle
But
pie. Oh.
I mean, of the non-genre stuff, is it Laura that's your favorite?
I love Laura. Yes, I really do. It's just such a great film. It's an ensemble piece. It's beautifully directed, beautifully acted, nuanced, lots of layers. It's always fun to see new things.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of Baron of Arizona.
Yes.
Big fan of that one. And it's not exactly a horror movie, but it gets lumped in with him. Shock. I really love Shock. He's got that, he's a little dastardly, but he's still kind of suave. It's really good.
It's so much fun to see them. I was at the Film Noir Film Festival in Palm Springs last month.
Wow.
And I got to see The Web on the big screen. It was really fun. There were so many things about the plot that just were nonsensical. It's like, wait, why? Where? But it was just a fun film to watch, and the writing was so clever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, and I feel like if you put your father in a suit, the movie's worth watching. And he wore suits all the time.
That.
So,
I love that.
It's so, he was so... I'm gushing, and I'm trying real hard not to gush, but man, I loved his work. And your talk last night, you were talking about your father and sharing lessons that you've learned from kind of evaluating your life with your father and that sort of thing. And to see the reaction from the people in the crowd was just touching and amazing. Because I've heard a version of that before when you came to Portland a few years ago, and bits and pieces of it when you were in Portland last month.
Right.
But it's always kind of evolved. There's always little things being added here and there. Do you find that happening a lot, that you learn something else, we got to put it in here, we got to learn something else this month, I got to do that?
I think, one of the things I learned from my dad about speaking in front of groups of people is that it's not about speaking to people, it's listening with your heart to them and sort of understanding what that particular group of people might need to hear and letting it come through you. That's usually what happens for me. And so I think this week just struck me, and this time right now, but particularly this week has been such a brutal week in the world. So much bad news. All of the stuff coming out of politics and immigration and just the global mood is so disheartened. And I just felt like we all need a shot in the arm, but not in a way that's sort of just pie in the sky, like, oh, let's all be in a good mood and do something. Oh, it's really more how in the face of all this darkness can we connect with our hearts and show up to one another in our hearts. And that was really what I wanted to share. So I feel like my dad lived through so many difficult, dark times, the McCarthy era and red baiting. He lived through both world wars and the Korean War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, so many political and financial crises, the Great Depression. And he always managed to show up in joy. It wasn't that he was immune to really dark periods of time, but that he found a way to find joy through his philosophy of life. And I think that's what I like to share, because it's one thing for me to say, oh gosh, this is something that's helped me, but here's somebody that everybody in that room loved, and they could see that he was a person too dealing with tough things. And so I know that I got to spend a day that was a really hard day for me. It was a hard day for the world. That day I ended up being on the Hopi Reservation and spending it with a number of wonderful Hopi people and sort of going and walking through the history of the oldest continuously inhabited villages in the United States.
Wow.
And you could see their whole history kind of on the ground, pot shards and corn cobs and things that had been there forever. And we were hearing the history and talking with this great guy that I've been out there many times with. And I thought, okay, well, they've gone through this for thousands of years and they're still here. So I think it's always important for us to share stories of people and of just stories in general of survival and what we've used to learn how to survive and find inspiration in those. So the stories are all in me because my dad shared them with me, and they've become my own because I've learned how to live them in my own periods of darkness and light. And so it's just, what do we all need to hear today? And I need to hear it as much as everyone else. It's not like, I got my act together and I'm going to tell you guys. It's like we all need a shot in the arm, right?
Yeah.
We all need to recognize that we're here to help each other through. We're all walking each other home.
Do you ever have trouble reconciling the pursuit of joy and a movie in which your father is chopping up a poodle and putting it in a pie? I mean, it's too. On the surface, it feels like it's too diametric. They're opposing things.
Totally.
Is there a way to reconcile that for people who don't get it the way we do?
Well, this is a story I'm going to tell. When I was a teenager, early maybe preteens, my dad did this commercial for Monster vitamins.
Okay.
And in the commercial, he, as my dad, who looked a lot like Vincent Price, the horror actor, kept his kids in the basement, but he was a good enough father to throw them down some Monster vitamins through the trap door. And so many people came up to me and they were like, "Oh my God, does your dad keep you in the basement?" And I thought that was hilarious because my dad was the least mean person on the planet, right? But when I got older and I realized that there were so many kids who had gone through really horrible childhoods, and maybe literally they weren't kept in the basement, but it was like an emotional basement. It was a horrible place. And here was my dad who became this sort of way of people seeing that darkness and light can exist together. And it's actually sometimes only through darkness that we can feel the power of the light.
Okay.
And so I really recognized that that's part of the power of these movies, that we can go into this other world and face our fears and realize we're all going to be okay. So that was really the way that I reconcile. He was the least likely person to hurt an animal ever. He was, I'm sure, appalled by poodle pie. So in a way, by poking fun at it, it was like, remember, good is real. And good will win. Love always wins. And even though right now it's not really looking like that.
It's a fine line to walk when you start talking about what's going on in the world and politics and things like that. But I think the way you put it last night, and that we're celebrating the goodness and instead of preaching, you really shouldn't be doing,
Right.
There's this fine line to walk, and I think you walked it gracefully last night. And everybody in that room comes from different backgrounds, different politics, different parts of the country
of course.
and world. And there wasn't anybody in there who was like, boo, based on anything. It was all wonderful and affirming.
Well, because it's about getting out of our heads and thinking what is right and wrong, as if there is a right and wrong. The only right and wrong that really exists is what our heart tells us. And at the end of the day, on paper, it's easy to believe anything. But faced with a situation, most people really, when they respond from their heart, they all respond the same way. We are programmed, we are built to love one another. And when we get out of our heads, that's possible.
Well, we definitely love what your father gave us, and I personally love what you're doing, and I'm sure everybody else does too. Just promoting what your father did and taking it to the next step by going to these conventions that he obviously can't be at. Just, I say that, but I feel like he kind of is through you.
Oh, I feel all the time like he's here, and I feel like he would get a kick out of it. And sometimes I imagine that if he were sitting there listening to someone instead of me, and I hold myself up to a really high standard because he was such an amazing people person. But I often feel like he comes through me, and it's a way of my getting to be with him and remember the best of this person who really was an extraordinary person.
I hope it never overshadows how wonderful we think you are as well.
Thank you.
You've been very gracious with me. from the first time I met you, and I was kind of a bubbling fanboy, like, oh my God, you're coming to Portland, can I record your thing? You were so gracious and friendly with me, and when I asked you to call into the show, you did, and all this, and it's been wonderful. So I hope it's not overshadowed by how wonderful you are, because I adore you.
Thank you. And right back at you.
Thank you so much. And
I
thanks
loved
for doing
looking out and seeing your smiling face in Portland last month. I was like, oh.
It's like, oh, it's Victoria. You know.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for doing this. Have a safe flight home.
Right back at
And
you. We'll see each other soon.
I hope so. I
Yes.
hope you- yes.
Okay.
Say yes.
Yes.
We're here at the end of the show, and it occurred to me that while I was recording the opening of the show, well, it's 4th of July here in the States. It is currently about 10 o'clock p.m. Wednesday night, which means all the neighbors and everybody else are setting off all their fireworks, scaring the heck out of one of my cats. And probably leaving some fireworks sounds in the background of my recording. You know what? I'm not going to edit it out because it is the 4th of July. You know, go Independence Day or whatever. I hope you are enjoying or had a safe Independence Day. And yeah, I want to thank you for listening. I've had a blast at Monster Bash. I really did. It was so much fun. It is refreshing. It is restorative. And yeah, I know I'm currently unemployed or, separated from my company. The good vibes that I got from Monster Bash a couple weeks ago, it's enough to keep me going. I'm not depressed about any of this. A little freaked out about the income part because that's going to be a thing. But, you know, it's going to take a heck of a lot more than being separated from my company to bring this monster kid down. You know what I'm saying? Also, a couple of things that we've got going on with Monster Kid Radio. Remember, we've got the Monster Kid Radio Rally Retro Awards. You can continue to vote for this year's rallies by going to tinyurl.com/rallies2018. That'll take you to a Google Doc where you can fill out your ballot for Best Actor, Actress, Director, Movie, and Monster from the films of 1934, 1944, and 1954. We'll be announcing the results of the Rally Awards later this summer, maybe even early September. That makes sense because August is Edgar August Poe month, where we're going to be doing nothing but Edgar Allan Poe movies. Hopefully that's going to come off without a hitch like Lucha de Mayo did. Looking forward to that. You heard me mention it when I was talking with Rod Barnett, that we've got him lined up to do Castle of Blood. We've got a few other things in the works, including a recording scheduled this weekend with my man, Dr. Gangrene, Larry Underwood, to talk about one of the Vincent Price, Edgar Allan Poe, Roger Corman films. That'll be a lot of fun. What's coming up next week on the show? Well, we're not ready for Edgar August Poe yet, so let's just kick off a regular episode. Why don't we have Christopher Franklin and Jim Beard on the show to talk about the Val Lewton film, The Body Snatcher. The last time Karloff and Lugosi worked together. It's a good movie. And depending on how the audio turned out, I may even have some audio from Sharon Moffat from Monster Bash that I can drop into that episode as well. So stay tuned for that. Speaking of which, I did record quite a few panels and talks and presentations and that sort of thing. I'm not including them in this week's episode. I didn't include them last week either because I want to go through and kind of sweeten that all up, edit out all the background noise and the hissing. We had a lot of times 2 microphones placed in the room, so hopefully the audio is going to be good and you're going to like what you hear. But that's all coming up down the line. Between this week and next week, remember that Monster Kid Radio is a registered service mark of Monster Kid Radio LLC. All original content of Monster Kid Radio by Monster Kid Radio LLC is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, non-commercial, no derivatives 3.0 unported license. Yeah, and that's it. Thank you for listening. My name is Derek M. Cook. Talk to everybody next week. Ciao, and stay tuned for one more recording from Monster Bash with Joshua Kennedy and company. When Josh says, let's play the Classic 5, we play the Classic 5. But it's Joshua Kennedy, man. How you doing?
I'm great, man. This is heaven on earth, is Monster Bash.
You flew in from overseas.
Yes.
You were across the pond. Before that, you were on the other side of the country. Well, I guess not too far from here.
Yeah.
But you've been in the air a lot lately.
Yes.
And here you are.
Yes.
Yes. How you feeling?
I'm a little jet lagged. I'm actually very jet lagged. But, I mean, to play the Classic 5 with you, Derek, it's worth staying up for.
The Classic 5. Okay, man. We've been playing it off and on all day with every single person I put in front of the microphone.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. Card number 1. This is from the Monster Bash exclusive expansion deck. You can tell because it's got orange on it.
Ooh, fancy.
What is your favorite classic horror or suspense television series?
It's Dark Shadows. I mean,
we were just talking about Dark Shadows.
We were just talking about Dark Shadows. It's weird childhood where Sci-Fi Channel was still
sci-fi.
Yeah, sci-fi before it became sci-fi, or it was actually SCI. Yeah, it was not the sci-fi we know today. But they were still showing reruns as a kid, so I would get it every morning.
Oh.
And so it was almost like I was living in the 60s in this weird time tunnel. And my mom was a huge Dark Shadows fan. It was so, yeah, I still am. What about you?
Oh, I love Dark Shadows. Are you kidding me? I'm loving my Dark Shadows. But I like Thriller a lot too.
Oh, yeah.
Thriller. His favorite episode of Thriller is Pigeons from Hell, because I'm a huge Robert E. Howard fan.
Yes.
And that is just an amazing adaptation. But I mean, Thriller's great. I like One Step Beyond quite a bit too.
Oh yeah, I mean, and how can we not mention Twilight Zone? I mean,
Twilight Zone. I mean, there's so many good. But right now, let's say Dark Shadows.
Yes.
I'm on board with that.
Good.
All right, card number 2. This is the Hammer expansion. It's got a red circle on it.
Uh-oh.
For Blood Red.
For Blood Hammer, Kensington Gore.
And we know this is appropriate for Josh because he's got that mad on for Hammer, like we all should.
Yes.
All right, favorite film of these 3. Karnstein trilogy. Vampire Lovers, Lust for a Vampire, or Twins of Evil?
Oh. It's not Lust for a Vampire.
Not Lust for a Vampire? That is the lesser of the 3. I'll give you that.
Yes. The lesser of Hammer, if we're going to be...
Not a fan, huh?
No. That's tough. I mean, Twins of Evil has Cushing as Gustav Weil, but Vampire Lovers has Ingrid Pitt, who I have as soft spot. I don't know, man. Cushing is in Vampire Lovers too, but he doesn't have much to do.
If you had both movies in your hand right now and you're going to sit down to watch one, what's the one that gets you?
I mean, right now, Vampire Lovers, because I saw Twins of Evil recently.
Okay.
So, let's say Vampire Lovers.
Okay.
What about you?
Ooh, I love Twins of Evil so much. Cushing is so bad in that.
Ugh.
And the score is so amazing. I love the film score on that. It's a Western practically.
It is. And I'm blanking on the composer's name, but he always wanted to do a Western.
Right.
Yeah. And you can hear it in it.
Totally is. It's just,
yeah.
When they're riding through the forest and the music's playing, it's like that's a bad posse.
Yeah. Don't mess with them.
All right, card number 3. If you could swap places with any character from any classic monster movie, who would it be?
That's a great question. Oh, snap.
That's one of the new questions in this
I
deck.
like that one.
Yeah.
That's good. I mean, the possibilities are endless.
Right?
Yeah. Any of them?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I mean, do you have one that comes to mind for you?
Whatever Richard Carlson's character is in Creature. I mean, come on,
okay, fair enough. Yeah,
I'm just, if Julie Adams wants to hang all over me in her white swimsuit, I get it.
That's yes, yes. That's well, maybe basically any Richard Carlson.
He
role.
was one dashing dude.
Yes,
he was suave.
Oh gosh. Okay. My whole life is. I mean, our lives are based around these. Like, how can I just choose one?
That's true.
I'm blanking, man.
It's the jet lag, right?
The jet lag's kicking in. Yeah, blame the jet lag. But let me think on that one.
Okay.
We'll come back to that one.
All right, this is one of our classic questions. What Boris Karloff role should have been or could have been played by Lugosi?
I would have liked. I think it goes without saying. We all love Karloff. We wouldn't change anything. But I think it would have been interesting to have Lugosi as the sorcerer in The Raven, right? When Lugosi versus Vincent Price in that little thing.
Oh man,
I think that might have been an interesting.
That would have been a completely different vibe.
I know, right? Neat. But just his whole Dracula.
Oh, even more menacing.
Yes,
just stuff on the. Oh wow.
Yeah, that's what I just thought of right now. I'm probably going to think of something 5 minutes from now, but
that's how this works.
Yeah,
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Oh.
The evil sorcerer in the castle with powers and...
Yeah.
You got one?
The boogeyman will get you. We'll see him swap out with that so he can hang out with Peter Lorre some more.
Oh,
and yeah.
Good
I like that a lot.
Great pick.
All right, here's the 5th card.
Let's do it.
And this one's kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But I'm going to try to change it up with my answer.
Okay.
What other monster should Abbott and Costello have met in the movies?
Well, I know what you're going to say.
Well,
even though, didn't they meet him in...
On TV, they met the creature, and everybody says the creature, but I'm going to say something different when it comes to me. So
say something different.
Somebody. Who do I want?
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about, and I think it's because the Bowery Boys stuff is here and such, and just different comedy teams messing with monsters and things. And I've been thinking about Abbott and Costello and maybe what some non-Universal stuff would have looked like. And maybe something like Abbott and Costello and the Screaming Skull or something like that would have been fun, you know? Now, I don't know how that would have worked since that movie's so intimate and small with a newlywed couple.
Yeah, of course,
but still.
but that's the question doesn't mean, it's just asking, what would they have been? Oh, dude.
Yeah, something like that would have been
or
fun.
like Abbott and Costello meet the Tingler or, something. And then he has to scream because it's on his back. Oh, that Screaming Skull, though. That's
something like that, you know?
That's
But I do like the Tingler. That's
the Tingler would be funny, yeah.
That'd be very
I'm
cool.
just trying to think what the possibilities for comedy would be.
Oh, it'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abbott!
Yeah. Chick.
Yeah. With the Tingler going up his leg.
Yes.
Okay, what was the question? It was who would we swap out with, right?
Yeah, who would
in
swap
any
out? In any class, any character from any classic monster movie. Who would you take places with?
Carl Denham.
Oh, hey, there's an adventure for us.
Yeah.
Filmmaker.
Yeah.
You know, going on, there you go.
Yeah.
From the first film. Not the second one where he's getting sued by the entire city of New
or
York.
Or not the Peter Jackson one at all.
Oh, well.
But I think that goes without saying.
Yeah, it would make that movie infinitely better. I'm just saying.
But Carl Denham.
I like that.
Yeah. Do you have one besides Richard Carlson?
Well, Richard Carlson from Creature.
That's the easy answer. Though.
That is the easy answer. Richard Denning from
Lucas from Creature from Black Lagoon.
Maybe Richard Denning's character from The Black Scorpion would be fun.
Nice. I mean, you're in the same route as.
I really am. Let me see if I can break away.
It's tough, right? It's.
See, I thought I was all clever coming up with this card, but this one's tough.
I know, because you have all the possibilities.
I don't know the character's name, even though it's my favorite Inner Sanctum film, but maybe Lon Chaney's character from Weird Woman. That might be kind of an interesting experience.
Yeah.
A little harrowing, but kind of interesting.
If you could just live for it one day.
Maybe one where things aren't going poorly.
Exactly. Oh, yeah.
Man, that is a tough card.
I know. I
didn't play test some of these.
Yeah. You open Pandora's box with that one.
What about you guys? Dan, who would you switch characters out with? If you could switch places with a character from any classic monster movie, who would it be?
Me personally?
Yeah.
Barry Andrews and Jack Lazarus from the Grave, because I would be a far better perspective mate for Veronica Carlson than him. And the movie would be like about 30 minutes long because I know how to kill vampires properly. So.
Yes, we all know your thing with Barry Andrews.
What about you, Scott?
Roy Scheider from Jaws.
Because he's like one of the ones who survive, right?
Yes, he does survive.
He does survive. He does survive. You come down here and give us an answer, Tim.
I would say Dick Ferran in The Mummy's Hand. The Mummy's Hand.
The Mummy's Hand. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's unique.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
See that?
Like the what in the Mummy's Hand? Oh, the Mummy's Hand.
Yeah.
That's good.
I like that. That's good.
I think I'd have some fun. Get a little romance.
Mine was Carl Denham. Oh, well, of course.
Yeah.
It took me 2 hours to figure it out.
Yeah, we had the question. He's like, yeah, we'll put that aside. Let's do the other two and we'll come back to it. Like, I thought it was it's a good question, but
that's a fantastic question.
You could go so many ways with that, I mean,
do you want to be the villain? Do you want to be, do you want the abilities of Dracula, but no.
Una O'Connor in The Invisible Man.
That's who you,
I changed my vote.
He's homicidal!
When I covered that movie on the show years ago, I had Freddie Morris from Not a Living Podcast on, and he pointed out that in some of the guests' room in that hotel, there's like this glamour shot of Una O'Connor.
Yes.
Like, how did that scenario happen? Like, why are there glamour shots of Una in all the hotel rooms? It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
I have a better question. How come there isn't any vendors around here selling copies of that picture?
I would buy one.
Yeah?
I would put one in my room. That's inevitable.
It's on DVD. Is it on Blu-ray? I mean, we could probably pull it out and blow it up, Photoshop a little bit.
Well, I wonder, it might be, maybe it's a headshot from and they put it from a studio headshot, that you can probably find.
That was her husband's present for her birthday. He took her to
a photographer,
walking on the Thames in 1932 or something, and that that was the That was the birthday.
You know, that just inspired me because I'm doing the Invisible Man on stage next month, and I'm gonna find some picture and put it on the wall. So thank you.
You are doing the Invisible Man on stage
secretly right now, but yes,
nobody's gonna see it, right?
Ha 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 ha. That is an understatement.
Well, Josh and I, we were talking about. He didn't even realize Caroline Munro did an audio commentary on the Captain Kronos DVD, the one that Paramount released.
Mm-hmm.
And I was talking to him about it, and I think Brian Clemens is on the audio commentary, and he and I were talking about Brian Clemens should have been running Hammer in the early 1970s. And if you want to know why the real reason why Hammer fell apart. Michael Carreras has been quoted in several places that, I didn't like Captain Kronos. I didn't think it was a very good film. Well, it's like, come on. I mean,
it didn't do very well at the time, though, right?
It didn't, and I understand that.
And I wonder how much of that, though, is Hammer like, whatever.
Yeah,
let's just put it out there.
Because, wasn't that another one of those? It took like a year or 2 years to even come out. It was filmed in 72, and it was released in 74 or something.
Yeah.
The fact that, I think that was what Frankenstein and the Monster from Hell was the same thing.
Yes.
The fact that it took them 2 years just to release these things,
and even longer to come out I know.
Satanic Rites took
like
10 years.
Yeah. They had to change the name.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
really?
The Legend of the Seven Golden Vampires is the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, and that one's got a weird thing because it's got kind of two different releases.
Yeah,
the Hammer and the Shaw Brothers. It's
yeah.
so weird. Which I still want to see somebody take both of them and just put them together, one giant fan edit. If it's not been done, please do it.
I tried watching the Seven Brothers meets Dracula version. I couldn't. It's like literally somebody just chopped up a bunch of scenes and just threw them in a mixer and just released what was put together. It makes no sense whatsoever.
It's got some interesting stuff in it that if they put it in the other, it's got a lot more hopping vampires.
Yeah.
But if they chop it up just right and put it in, it's a little bit more backstory about what happened at the village, but it's still a lot of close-ups of slow motion hopping vampire stuff.
Yeah. It's
over and over and over again. It's like, come on.
We get it.
Yeah, but it's got an awesome Van Helsing. So
yes. Once again, I think I was telling Tim on the drive out here, if they're going to remake one Hammer movie, I think that's the one they should remake. Because it's just like an action horror.
Who would they put in it?
Well,
a couple years ago, I would have said
CGI Peter Cushing. You can do him again.
A few years ago, I would have said put Jet Li or something, but he's not doing great.
You can find some.
That would have been cool.
Yeah. Well,
thank you.
Yes,
I love that game.
Did you pull some out on purpose? Oh, okay.
Studying for later.
Cheating,
because this is one of my favorite ones. It's your favorite Evelyn Anchors role.
Are you asking that now?
Sure, why not?
I'll let the master go first.
The master.
I'm shuffling through my memory. I can go so cliche, but I don't want to go cliche. What do you got?
Well, I have to go the Wolfman because honestly, that's I realize that's the cliche one, but that's the first one you see her in, and that sort of sets her character in all these other Universal films. She's like the nice, innocent kind of leading lady, and that basically defines her, as an actress, I think. So you have to go the Wolfman, and sadly, in most of the other Universal films that she was in, she was barely in them. Her character wasn't really all that developed, but.
Well, and she has a nice meaty role in Wolfman. She has a lot to do.
And this just came to me.
Weird Woman.
Weird Woman, where she's basically the villainess. She's very good.
That's my answer. Is Weird Woman.
It's very good, but honestly, to define Evil Anchors, I think it has to be the Wolfman for me anyway.
Yeah, it's iconic. Yeah, no, but Weird Woman.
Yeah. She didn't like playing the villain. It's the thing, and it's too bad.
Which is so rare.
Someone
to do. It's that's the
but
best part.
I think there's certain actors and actresses, their personalities come out in the movies, and it's almost like who they are. You kind of can tell that was Evelyn Anchors, and what I've read about her and her marriage with Richard Denning, that was kind of like how she was in real life.
I never knew she was married to Richard Denning.
Oh yeah,
you didn't know that?
I didn't know that.
What is wrong with you, boy?
She's how I make the connection from Creature from the Black Lagoon to pretty much any other Universal movie. Typically,
I'm kicking you out of my house now. Okay?
No,
wow.
Weird Woman is really good. I like her in Son of Dracula.
Yes.
But what's the last Invisible Man film? Not the Invisible Man Returns, but Revenge of the Invisible Man or whatever.
Invisible Agent?
Yeah, she's in the very beginning.
Yep.
And then she disappears.
That's what I'm
And then
saying.
she shows up at the very, very end.
Which one's that?
That's the very last one.
The Revenge?
John Hall. No, it might be Revenge. Well, John Hall was an agent
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
John Carradine's.
Yeah, Carradine's in it. I can't remember who the old... Is John Hall the Invisible Man in that one?
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe so.
I haven't seen that one.
I
don't remember.
It's not as good. I mean, it's... I would even say Invisible Woman's probably better.
Oh my god!
But Invisible Woman is so...
Yeah.
It's the Invisible Woman.
Yeah, but it's got Shemp in it. So I mean, you know.
Yeah. I like him. I like them all, though. I mean, you've heard the show. It's hard for me to find something to just truly dislike. I'm too easy.
Hey,
except Lust for a Vampire. Let's just call that common ground. Get it out.